Merry Christmas, everybody. Hello, or happy holidays, whatever you celebrate on this day. Merry
I
Christmas.
just I just thought about something. We should put our banner up.
Our banner.
Yeah, because we always say, "Well, this is pre-recorded," and ba 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 ba.
Oh, there we
That.
go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and um, all of the holidays.
All of the holidays. It's so
Yes.
weird because I'm not used to recording, and I'm like, I have to go to the comment section.
I
You're
know.
not
I love
having
their
today.
I love our comment section. We honest to God have the funniest audience. I feel like our chat is always off the chain. And it's hard for me not to just watch it the entire time, like chat, check, chat, check. But they always have something really funny to add. So it's like,
I
how do
know.
you not? How do you not?
So bear with us today. So you see that it is a recorded episode, but one or at least both of us will be in the chat while this is actually live on Christmas Day. Yeah, so today we wanted to actually kind of go back to the beginning to our second episode that we've ever done, our second show that we've ever done. And this is the first time that we had ever spoken about the Rekieta Aaron Imholte situation. And what's really funny, I watched it. Haley hasn't watched it back yet, so you'll get her live-ish, live taped
I'm
reaction
excited.
of seeing our second ever stream. And yeah, it's interesting because in this we don't know all the stuff that we have known now. Some of our speculations are still on point, and some of them you're like, whoa, okay. So yeah, but
Well, and a lot of people also I've heard along the way, like, y'all don't know what you're talking about. You came in last minute to this story because you saw that it was blowing up, blah, blah, blah. That's simply not true. We were here actually like immediately. We watched it happen live as far as Aaron finding out about the arrest and stuff like that. And I think it was 2 or 3 days later that we started covering it. And that was after the Simpcast episode where I was on, and Aaron came on like 10 minutes after I left. So it was like, no, we were that close to the story. So,
yeah,
we were on top of things. We've been here since the beginning.
and it's funny watching it back. I watched it back just to take some notes last night, and it like took me back to where I was then. Because Haley was just sending me everything. You have to watch this, you have to watch this, you have to watch this. And then once we decided that we were going to do our show, because back then our shows were on Tuesdays, from Sunday when she was on with Chrissy on Simcast, we had from Monday. We really only had Monday to actually get the show together. And then Tuesday morning, we got derailed. And I don't know if you remember that we got derailed on that Tuesday. We had a whole thing. We were going to go through Kino Casino. We were going to go through Simcast. We were going to go through Killstream, all of this stuff. And then we got derailed. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I'm going to shut up now. Let's get to it. Let's just do
Okay. I'm ready.
And I'm still sick, so if I start coughing, I apologize.
You sound better, though. Like, overall, you sound better. And you look better. You don't look all congested. I mean, I know you're not like 100%, but it looks better.
Yeah, thank you. I actually had time to shower and do my hair after, cleaning up after stomach flu kids and being sick myself.
That's lovely. Don't envy it. It's the worst.
Thank you, Lemmy, for stepping in for me that day, because I was literally sitting on the floor crying with a kid on me who had vomit all over him and texting Haley like, I can't, I can't today.
She was a trooper. I'm glad she was able to.
Yeah.
Do you want to show the one super tip that we got after the Letitty show?
Yes. Okay. If you would like to pull that up.
Okay. Let me move my banner out of the way here so we can see it.
So Rover came in for with $100. Thank you. You're the best. Thank you so much. He said, just think, all of this trauma could have been avoided if she just didn't have such shitty hair. It's a very relevant comment to what we
is
watching the Letitty. Oh man. I was telling, who was I telling? I think I was telling FKA. I was like, I seriously feel like I'm gonna need Botox after we're done with Letitty, because my brow is so crinkled and like the whole time it's gonna get stuck like that. But
She's a lot to handle. She's a lot to handle. And I find myself like trying to catch my breath, just like pacing, trying to keep up with her. And like, it's just all over the place. So I get it. But that his comment is because at one point she says she's so crazy. And that's why her hair like goes out in all these different directions and frizzes out. So that's the joke
right.
to it. And we get it. But thank you, Rover, so much. You've blessed us time and time again, but this is really nice to have right before Christmas with 7 children that we have to do for. So thank you, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate all our members and all the fun donos that come in. We don't have a goal, though. I'll say one more thing. I know that you've seen on YouTube the little Target gold. That, I mean, obviously they stole the idea from Aaron Imholt.
Of
I
course.
haven't seen I haven't seen him implement that yet, but I can only assume that he's going to go nuts once he finally sees it on the screen. I'm sure he's going to use it. So at some point when we go live again, I want to test it, not because I want a goal, but I don't care if it's, the goal is $5 or 10, whatever, but I
Right.
want to see what happens when you hit the goal. Like, is there confetti? Is there like, or is it just like, oh, you hit your goal. Good job.
I
I don't know.
know.
I'm just
I know. I
curious.
want to see what it's like. Oh.
Okay.
All right.
I'll shut up.
Well, we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna at least skip through some things and things like that. But that being said, all right, let's just get to it. I'm so excited for you to
I
see
am
it.
too. I am too. Well, I was
Right.
telling Jackie right before we came on, I'm surprised that it's got such low views because I'm the type of person where, like, if I had come into the story, whatever, a little bit late, I would be looking around everywhere to see how it started. Like, what were the first hot takes? How did this develop
Right.
or whatever? And I'm really surprised that it sits here well, maybe it's because it's at the bottom of our channel as being the second video, but it's got really low views. So we're like, let's just see what we got right, what we got wrong. Let's just visit that. So anyway, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
Here we go.
Look at us.
What I think is so funny about our intro is that all the freeze frames that we had were from the first time I think we met.
All of our the videos that you see of us were from the one stream that we had done at that point together.
Yeah.
So that's all we had was, footage of us from the one time.
Oh man.
Look at our girls in buns.
I know. Remember we're gonna actually call it messy buns or something like that before we settled on this.
Well, I think it was a good move to go with what we've gone with. Good morning. Welcome to
Lord.
Pretty AntiSocial Podcast. I'm Haley and this is Jackie. We had a lot of fun things for you planned today that we've been working really hard on, but we had to just my hair is like this.
Oh yeah, no. So last week we went over human chimeras and we did like the curious cases of Linda and Karen, who found out that they had 2 different sequences of DNA in their body.
Linda and Karen's story were
go into talking about CRISPR and different DNA stuff today.
Hud, I had to pause it real quick because I was literally looking up DNA sequencing, CRISPR, like how it all started, what different things that they can do with that technology and things like that. And it was a lot. It was intense, but we were on. We'll say it like we were looking over the whole Aaron Imholte Rekieta thing while we were researching for the show, and we're like, forget it. We just have to talk about it because we can't stop talking to each other about it. So let's just do it live.
We had to pivot because there were more pressing matters that kind of consumed us, like to the point where I was having dreams about it. It was crazy.
It's so weird watching this back. I think that's crazy.
Isn't it?
Your subconscious is taking over and can't get away from it. Yeah. So
Okay,
for months, I've been watching the Steel Toe Morning Show. Divorce Countdown was sort of the thing at the time where, people knew who watched the show that he and his wife April were having some trouble. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, that's fine. We're going to get into it. But I'd sort of been watching the downfall of that. And then the next thing that I know, Nick Rekieta from Rekieta Law had a video that came out from one of his live streams on Rumble where he was obviously intoxicated. There were rumors going around that he was doing inappropriate things to himself on this live stream. There were also rumors that Aaron's wife from Steel Toe was in the room and possibly doing things to him. So that went around for about 24 hours. And then we all heard, or at least, I mean, a good portion of the internet knew about Nick Rekieta, his wife, and Aaron Imholte's wife, April, from Steel Toe, their arrest. So I've sort of, I've been keeping track
really
of it. I've seen a bunch
how
of stuff, Jack, and I was
quickly
like,
that all happened.
Look at this. So since then, we've been
It was
following
that
the
video,
case and
and everyone's
interested
like,
in
"What
all
the
the
hell?"
things, watching all
And
the
then,
live streams.
But 2 days
There's a
later,
lot
they
to
were
unpack
arrested.
here. I was actually watching the Steel Toe live stream this
Two or three.
morning when he got news of the warrant being released for the Nick Rekieta, raid. So that was interesting to see. But yeah, we wanted to break this down because I have a lot of feelings about it. I'm sure Jackie does too. I was actually on Simpcast over the weekend where this was one of the topics that was brought up. But to be quite honest with you, I didn't feel comfortable really voicing my opinion on the matter, because I knew that the hosts, 2 or 3 of the hosts were close to both Nick and Aaron. So I didn't really feel like it was my place to air out my grievances or some, the way that I felt about things, because I didn't want to potentially, be disrespectful or hurt any feelings. So I was like, you know what?
Right. And it's so new and so raw and they're so close to it that, I can completely understand why,
So I just sort of took it in. I was just trying to sort of let them guide me where they were comfortable talking about it. And it just sort of moved so quickly that I just didn't feel it was appropriate to put how I felt out there on that show. So instead, we talked about it over the weekend. We were both sort of engrossed in the story. We're like, let's just do it Tuesday. So here we are.
Yeah. I know. I was trying to focus on, okay, let me look at CRISPR and gene editing and all this other stuff. And then I'm like, but this person's going live and that person's going live. Oh, it's a 5-hour stream. Maybe I can do both at the same time. No way. This definitely pulled our focus for sure.
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. And not only that, but I've seen a couple comments, and I've thought this too about certain personalities online. But I've seen some comments saying like, oh, you're just trying to ride the clout wave. You want to, whatever, get some attention off this. I don't care. I just want to be able to express how I feel about it. I've been following this, like I said, for months. And that's all. I don't care about any attention from it. I hope that, other people see it and agree with me or want to give feedback and give their side of it, but it's not about clout for me. I had an opportunity on with a big show where people were really close to him, where I could have, gone all out. It's not about that for me. So, I mean, I'm trying. Do you want to try to, I guess we should start with the warrant coming out today and sort of work our way back.
Could you imagine if you would have stayed on for like 10 more minutes when Aaron had come on that Simcast?
Yeah, and I've thought about that off and on, especially obviously that night. But I think because it was so fresh and so raw, I don't know what I would have said. I would have had so many questions. And that's why I said I didn't want to say anything at all if I'd had the opportunity, because I would still to this day feel like I was stepping on toes and being disrespectful to the other people on the panel. Because what if I'm asking him a question and I don't like the answer and I want to push him more or whatever? Like, I don't know. I just felt more comfortable doing it here. But at this point, I'm like, well, if I could today, what would I say? And I sort of feel the same way. I would have to have like a list of questions for him or something. But we watched him long enough now. We know that we're not getting any truthful answers that aren't, completely twisted and only beneficial to him, and where he comes out the savior of the world. So
I know you'll get into it more, but it's just really. It's funny because when all of this first started, the only person we heard anything from was from Aaron. So everyone, I think it was just like so salacious and so like, oh my God, that everyone took it as 100% truth to begin with. And so did we, and it wasn't until later on where I think there was a stream where both of us were just like, whoa, hold on. Who is this stuff coming from? We need to take it with a huge grain of salt.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but it's interesting. Oh, I have to make a note to myself because I need to point something out later.
Okay. As far as
let's do that. And it's just a very interesting situation because there's so many different elements to it, and I think the salacious stuff is the most of the reason why people have gravitated towards it, but the legal stuff I think is actually really important as well.
So we'll do that. We'll start with this. Most people that are watching this are probably already aware of who we're talking about, but we'll go into a little bit of backstory too to catch you up to speed. But let's see.
All right. So
What?
So this is when we start going through
JP wrote in the comments section.
the
SWAT team leader.
what is it called? The application for a search warrant. So we go read through this. I'm gonna start it at here because it just goes through the Pomplin's credentials or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we yeah, and
I
then
love
we start
I love that
talking.
it says episode 002 at the top. Our notes.
I know, remember when we used to put all of our stuff in a Google Doc?
Yeah, that didn't last too terribly long. I was like, I cannot
No.
do this.
It did not.
It just says that's a weird sentence, but anyway, he resides at the residence with his wife Kayla, date of birth this, and 5 children ages 6 to 16. The reporter indicated that 4 people from their church had gone to him reporting neglect to the children, possible controlled substance use, and a questionable relationship with an additional couple. It was reported that Nicholas is a social media blogger, and he and his wife Kayla have befriended hosts from a different local social media blogger. Those individuals were identified as Aaron Michael Imholte and April Diane Imholte. Your affiant knows personally these are personalities of the Steel Toe Morning Show, which used to be in St. Cloud, Minnesota radio. However, as of recent years, the show has been a social media entertainment show, strictly online based. It was reported that the Imholtes may have been staying with the Rekietas, and the home was in disarray and cluttered. It was reported from a church preschool teacher that the children had complained of being hungry, not being fed, and wearing the same clothes for 3 to 4 days at a time and would start to smell. Yeah.
How do you not notice that?
Well, I don't know. There were 4 people that were involved in, it's sexcapades for less, for lack of a better term, that were around these children all the time, and one of the things that bothers me about sort of watching Aaron talk about it this morning was that he kept referring to the Rekieta kids, the 5 Rekieta kids. And I'm like, what about your 3? Because you took them over there. They came to your house. Like, there's more children hurt. Now, were they neglected and all that? That's not what I'm saying. But they were affected by it. They were, he said himself, well, I probably should have paid more attention, been more attentive, blah, blah, blah. But he did put his own children in harm's way. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, he even had mentioned sometimes that his kids were like, hey, his kids telling him that they didn't want to go over there anymore because they were bored, because they would spend their whole time on their iPads. Like, he said that. I think he said that on Simcast or something later on, after he had left.
Yeah, he actually showed up at Simcast. I left around midnight, and then somebody messaged me and was like, oh my God, he's on here. But yeah, it's like, the entire time when your children are running around and doing all that, like, we all know what kind of things were happening. So you willingly took your children, I don't know how many times, we'll never know how many times, but more than one time, and put them in this position and put them in a situation where your pleasure was more important to chase than taking care of your children and keeping them in a safe place. I don't know. I'm just, nothing has changed though. Aaron still, to be quite honest with you, I think it's really makes jokes. He still makes jokes, and he still calls Nick out. Like, when he talks about it, he's like, you had drugs around children, but your kids, you had y'all were doing all this stuff and had cocaine with your kids, right in the next room, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so did you.
Right.
So did you. Like, that's all. That part's not changed. He still has detached himself from it to the point where he doesn't realize he was an active participant. He was 25% of the polycule.
Yep.
So
yeah. I'm going to play a little bit more of us just talking about this part, and then because we'll hear more of the application of the search warrant where us stopping and a little bit later. So it's not.
It comes down to, for me, is 4 adults who, because of A, B, C, and D, some of them, maybe because of their addiction, whatever, but out of all 4 of them, nobody thought about the 8 kids. There's several times this morning, Aaron said something like, Kayla and I, she kept telling me how she just wanted this to be a little family, us 4, just our little family with us 4. And I kept thinking, you've got 3 kids, they have 5 kids. Like, what kind of world is this that you're living in where it's like right over their head and they don't even mention it? They don't mention the fact that the children are in tow.
We'll get into it more, but this was like, from timeline perspective, it was hard, and it was fast, and it was crazy, and it was in a very short period of time.
And that's so true. And you know what? And like, I don't think that's actually even talked about a lot, though. It's like the time frame of when they met and then when all this stuff started happening. It was so quick.
Yeah.
And
like within a
it was-
month?
Yeah.
Less. Because the comedy thing was in November. And
It was
Aaron
at
always
the end of
says,
October.
okay, end of October. I knew it was in the fall. Okay. End of October.
Right.
And you hear Aaron saying that December the 4th is the first day that Nick introduced his wife to Coke. Because he
Right.
celebrated it on the show. He was like, this is the day I knew my marriage was over. And I'm like, but that's still not long. What is that? 4 or 5 weeks?
Right. Yeah. No, not long at all. So it was just like, I don't know. It was just really fast.
Yeah, and it was in like full swing for sure by like February. February seemed to be like the peak when you started seeing stuff
Right.
as far as on their streams where it was like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah. Sorry,
Freaking out
there
and
was a
stuff.
pause. I hear like my dog has done something bad. I can hear my husband be like, no, downstairs right now. Oh God. It's been a mess. It's been a mess. She ate her bed today. There was like stuffing everywhere. Woke up and it was just like,
dude, I have got pictures from a certain time frame when my dog, we both have Labradors, but my dog was a puppy. I kid you not, I think he went through 6 or 7 beds because I'd come in and take a picture like and send it off to my husband like, look at this. We finally found
right.
one that he wouldn't tear up, but it took, I mean, we spent a lot of money on beds.
I know, like her first one, I had first gotten and like within 2 days she had ripped it up. I was like, son of a.
Yep.
So, all right. Anyway, but like as we were saying, yeah, it was fast and it was intense and a lot of things changed in a very short period of time with these couples. It's wild to even just see like now.
So then they go in to say,
okay, so we're going more about going through the application for a search warrant. I talked about the dream that I had because it was like so intense. We were going, I was learning so much in such a short period of time. And like, it was like inundated with everything that was going on, trying to get myself caught up on it, that I think I had a dream about Coke being found in my home. And I was like, I need to pause. So I think this is what we're
in his
talking
overall
about.
weight loss and appearance. Okay, hold on. Where was that?
I need to.
Okay, and no, you're fine. Stop me because I'm trying to get through it.
Yeah.
It's 5 pages. Okay,
Oh, man.
but yeah, stop me. Okay, strung out as well.
For a second, that was really weird. Okay.
As long as you don't have deja vu of the dream you had.
Oh man. Okay. So just a quick. So I had a dream. We've been going over this, reviewing this for like days and days, and for me, days and days. And I've been that day and night. Okay. So the other night I had a dream like I found like a huge bottle of cocaine in my house, and like I like poured it down the sink, and I called Ailey.
Did you say bottle of cocaine?
I think
Yeah.
I need to take a pause. So just for a little bit, because now
it follows you into your dreams. Yeah,
Huh?
it follows you to your. I said when it follows you to your dream state. Yeah. Probably gonna take a little break.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, in both Nicholas and Imholte's video vlogs from Rekieta's studio, it's apparent that they are in the same room and the items in the background appear the same. At one point during the Imholte's video, Nicholas walks in the background and grabs an item, which would show that the background is not a backdrop curtain and that it was the layout of the actual room, which I don't know why that's important, but I guess so that it's not a backdrop they're taken from place to place. I guess he's just saying like, no, this is in the house.
Right.
On May the 22nd, 2024, Imholte did a video blog where he talked about Nicholas and insinuated controlled substance use. I'm saying Imholte also referenced a video blog that
I know. I know. That's how new it was, though.
That and I read like phonetically to where I try to, I don't know, it's thing. I try to read what the letters should say instead of what it sounds like. Anyway, just stupid.
Okay, so I'm actually gonna skip a little bit to like after we're done with it, and
children in this state of intoxication. It should be noted that your affiant was a drug recognition evaluator for several years, and based on your affiant's training and experience, the behavior of Nicholas in his video blog indicates polysubstance use, meaning it is believed he was ingesting more than one substance based on his behavior, being both excited and nearly passing out. This could be consistent behavior of using both CNS stimulants and depressants. Your affiant believes that the reports of neglect and controlled substance use are consistent with the previous mentioned information. Your affiant's requesting a search for the property for the above listed items in relation to the welfare of the children in the home and in relation to a controlled substance investigation. Your affiant is also requesting to search Nicholas Rekieta.
So that would make sense when him being pulled over. If part of it, the search is for him, his person, too.
Yeah, and I wonder where he was going. I guess we got to review that next, but I wonder where he was headed. The cops, I guess, stopped the vehicle. It said he was found in his vehicle traveling south, I think, on the road he lives on. So he had just left, going somewhere at 9 a.m.
Dropping his kid off, Taylor.
So that I'm trying to find the actual.
Nick Rekieta is facing a drug charge in Kandiyohi County. Rekieta was arrested Thursday along with.
By the way, it took us like a few tries to even say Kandiyohi the right way.
Yeah, I had to hear other people saying it.
Mm-hmm.
His wife Kayla and a fellow online personality. That's April. So prosecutors filed charges against Rekieta and his wife on Friday for second-degree possession, child endangerment, and a gross misdemeanor fire charge. According to the charges, law enforcement attempted to execute a search warrant on May 23rd at Rekieta's home in Spicer and was greeted by a girl at the front door who would not let them inside, which
I forgot
some people have been like, oh, I can't believe she wouldn't let them in. Well, as her dad being a lawyer, she probably told her, like, if anybody tries to get into the house and they like, I mean, I would tell my kid if someone knocks on the door, you don't let anybody into the house.
Yep.
So I don't know. But anyhow, after
I said,
Rekieta
yep.
refused to
And then I
provide
said,
the
yep.
door code, law enforcement used a door ram to get
So
inside
weird.
and found Kayla, Imholte, and 4 juveniles inside. So from this, I'm guessing since they got Rekieta, Nick, outside, like in his car, they probably brought him back to the house and had to do like a door key code. I know like some door locks, they have like a key code thing that you can push in. And
ouch.
All right. So in all this, I forgot that. So 4 of the kids were found in the house with April and Kayla.
Yes.
And so, and you said earlier, he was driving someone to school when he got picked up.
That's what he said. That's what Nick said. I mean,
okay.
And I know that since then, a couple of times when he's talked about it, he said that the 16-year-old was not at the house at the time.
Right. Right.
So, and yeah, I don't know. I can just remember Nick saying at one point that he was dropping a kid off at school. Or, I mean, and you know, they did like the co-op stuff. So at somebody's house.
Right.
But,
okay.
I don't know.
And so since he refused to do it, they probably just like, all right, then, well, we're breaking the door down.
Yeah, he refused to give him the code. And then when they handed him the warrant, he threw it on the ground. That's when they pulled out the battering ram.
And they're like, all right, you want to play this game?
Yep.
Oh, Lord. Law enforcement proceeded to search the master bedroom and bathroom, where they allegedly found a variety of drug paraphernalia, including 3 small baggies that tested positive for cocaine, 8 green tablets that tested positive for ketamine, and a digital scale, and several other items that tested positive for cocaine, charges claim. Authorities also found a Sig Sauer, I don't know, AR, so it's an AR, okay, with several magazines and loose ammunition underneath the bed. A spent shell casing on the bedroom floor, and located additional firearms and ammunition in the garage, according to court records.
The spent shell casings, though, he had said was part of an art installment.
AR under the bed,
that fell off.
And the ammunition.
Because they didn't own a 22.
And I've said, I think I talked to like Davey and Rich and stuff about this.
And they didn't find a 22.
Like, yeah, like,
no.
Haven't you ever gone to like a gun range and it could get like caught in a pant leg or something like that? So I don't know.
Yeah, but I have a problem with the AR, any gun, just chilling under your bed. I'm assuming it was, even if it wasn't loaded, you've got 5 kids, with your youngest being 6 years old. Like, we all know about gun safety and what you're supposed to do and what's legal to do. So, you know.
Yeah. No, that's true. And then everyone's gonna be like, where's your gun, mama? I ain't telling anybody.
Right.
All right.
Not under your bed, I hope.
No, no way.
Paranoid anybody?
Right. So police took Rekieta and his wife Kayla.
Well, I could see that.
Law enforcement that he
them like all tweaking out.
Where law enforcement claimed to find most of the drug paraphernalia, but allegedly refused to answer questions about the cocaine according to court records, which is understandable. If you don't have a lawyer present, you don't say anything.
Is this
even if you are a lawyer?
Is this before we found out that Nick just kept on talking and Kayla and April had their mouths shut? the whole time.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, I would
Don't
think
say
so.
anything until you get one. Before his arrest, some online users had raised concerns about Rekieta's health this week, sharing a clip of him appearing to doze off during a stream. I don't mean to laugh. It's just so sad. I'm very uncomfortable. And when I'm uncomfortable, I laugh. So
Very true.
It's crazy. Anyway, law enforcement noted Rekieta had several injuries to his arms at the time of his arrest. They described the injuries as sores that are common with controlled substance users, charges said. Rekieta, who owns a law firm based in Spicer, Minnesota, saw his online following skyrocket during the pandemic. Okay, it talks about the Kyle Rittenhouse Amber Heard trial. He's got 150,000 followers on Twitter, and 450,000 subscribers on YouTube. Rekieta and his wife are set to make their first appearance on Friday morning. Okay, and then they did have their.
I do have that arraignment too,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, so that's sort of how this was all found out. I can remember I was actually watching a different show following the same story because I was worried about April leaving and all that. And Aaron was on something called Misery Loves Company podcast live. And he was sitting there doing his little interview and talking about their falling out and stuff. And one of the panelists was like, oh my God, you got to see this. Everybody's messaging me. And the other guys, the host is like, no, we're not taking messages and stuff right now, dude. He was like, no, you need to see this. And so he reads out, the arrests and they look it up on the docket. And Aaron finds out supposedly right then and there that they had been arrested.
See, I didn't believe it then either.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Mm-mm.
But that sort of
Aaron
started
wasn't involved.
an avalanche with Aaron specifically. Aaron is very performative and grandiose and very, I don't know, outspoken, out there in your face. And when this came about, he said several times since then he was embarrassed. So, and of course he would be, and that he had tried to keep it private and lie about it and all this stuff. So he ends up going on a couple of different shows and spilling his guts.
But my whole question is he saying he's like trying to keep it hidden and lie about it? But I mean, when you do a stream, like a 4-hour stream or so in a hot tub with that same couple, are you really hiding it?
Well, so
or he just wasn't talking about it at length on his morning show.
To your point, that was one of the first people had already had.
This
there were
before
rumors
I
that were
saw
going around about making
the
his wife.
hot tub stream. Yep. All right.
Yep. We were several episodes in before I was like, let's watch that. You've never seen it. You gotta see it.
Because I didn't, I misspoke earlier because I didn't even know about the kill stream one. I don't think he did the kill stream interview or whatever until actually this day. It was so we recorded this we did a live. This was the 28th of May. When all this, the application for a search warrant came out, and then when people start talking about it, it was that morning of the 28th. Yeah. We're going to get into Aaron's show of this morning of the 28th, but I don't know if I should tell you or wait till later.
Don't tell me.
All right, I'll wait till later.
Okay.
But it's funny because a lot of opinions that we both have had about Aaron have not changed one bit. It's actually gotten worse.
That's what I was going to say. It's not like we haven't given him a chance to, warm up to Aaron or whatever, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Wife and some of the stuff, the comments they've made in the past, some of the images and videos they've posted in the past about them possibly being swingers. So when this video of them all four in the jacuzzi came up, because they had been bragging, we've been hanging out with the Rekietas, yada yada. When this first came up, that was obviously people's reaction was like, oh, okay, well, here we go. This is sort of what we thought might be happening. It was a fun rumor to talk about or whatever. But then it was sort of hard to deny. And since then, since all this media tour that Aaron's going on talking to everybody and whatever, he said a couple of times, like, that was my idea. I thought if I got in front of it and just sort of put it out in everybody's face, then it would be more of a joke, like, yeah, right, we're swinging, we're swapping couples and doing our thing in the jacuzzi. He thought he could sort of laugh his way out of the reality that was right in front of everybody's face anyway, right?
I was nervous. Yeah. This is a new show.
Hey. It was only our second one.
So, sure, Jan.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the perfect response. So,
but also too, during this whole time period, if the Imholtes are doing some of their podcasts at the Rekieta's home too, how is that also not gonna add to speculation? You
So
know,
at one point, Aaron had come out and they're like, let me back up. There was a comedy show in their town. One of the, I don't know, I'm not familiar with, I guess, Minnesota. Is that what is that what we said, Minnesota?
yes,
Yeah. Anyway.
Minnesota.
I'm not familiar with that area at all, but there was a comedy place somewhere in between, and they were getting ready to go on, and Chrissy Mayer was the headliner for the show. It was a sold out show. Everybody was excited. And that was the weekend that Chrissy Mayer found out that her father had been murdered. So obviously she couldn't go on. She hit a flight, and was out of there. And because of that, Nick and Aaron sort of, I don't know what the lineup was, but one of them sort of replaced her and tried to keep the show going. So that's
Nick
where
was the headliner.
couples, Aaron and April and Nick and
First
Kayla
time doing
first
comedy.
met in person, one-on-one. They realized, oh, this is pretty cool. We live fairly close to each other. Let's start hanging out. So Aaron had come on a show several times saying, we're spending time, we're going to the Rekietas this weekend, whatever. We're going to go hang out. We're going to go to dinner, whatever. So it was known at one point that they were close enough to hang out. I think everybody knew they were both in the same state, but they were hanging out and were buddies. So there was a lot of bragging on one party's part, and you can guess which one, but they were very public about their new friendship with them. And then it slowly, and like I said, this is all coming from Aaron. Aaron is the one who's like, this is what happened. And it was sort of a slow drip. But whenever this arrest came out, like it was the floodgates open, and he is telling everything. But yeah, so
too much.
Yeah, I know. I do have the arraignment, but let me see if I can just find like the most important part, because it's
well,
a
you
little
are
while
so
to begin
cute in
the
this
court.
because y'all have to understand.
what would you
I
call it?
messaged Jackie and sent her the
not the
MLC
judge.
link, and I was like,
Yeah, well,
"Look at
before-
this,"
Yeah.
and she's like,
Mhm.
"Because I never brought up any of it. I was
And
just
word over
quietly
numbers and
watching in the background and by myself."
Pretty wild. And
Oh,
And
yeah.
Jackie did a really good job catching up to speed. It's cute watching your brain try to like process it all.
I know.
You're like,
I was looking at
Yeah.
I'm like,
Go
what
ahead.
is going on?
It almost seems like
Because it
Aaron's
was
back
a lot. It was because
Oh, yeah.
there's so many different moving pieces in the whole thing, and I'm just trying to, for lack of better terms, like trying to peel back the onion of all this information and like why so and so is connected to this and that, and who are these other people around the sphere. Like,
well, and I did a lot of learning during that time too, because like you saw, I didn't know who Chad was. I didn't like, I do now that I know his full name, and I'm like, yeah, I remember seeing that guy on TV when I was younger and stuff, but like I didn't know all the pieces either. But I was very impressed with how quickly you were able to like, because it was so much coming at you all at once, and so many different people, like you said, in that orbit. And then you have to figure out the alliances and who hates who and why would that person, like all of their different movements.
Right.
I thought you did a really good job. It's still
and
cute
like
watching
also
you like
people's motivations as to why they were doing
Mhm.
different things.
right.
So, yeah.
You did good. You did a really good job. But it's funny watching your
Thank you.
little gears turn.
I know, I can see it too, because you can always tell because you see the whites of my eyes because I'm looking up at the ceiling cats, just trying to process everything.
You did good. You did good.
Thank
know.
you.
went off.
Well, because on Simcast on Sunday
I
night,
watched so much.
when Aaron was on, I think one of the ladies that
So
was on,
much
Ashton,
content
is that her
within
name?
like a few
That's
days.
dirty.
It was
Yes.
insane.
So I thought she was pretty fair about the whole thing, and she was asking great questions. And she asked Aaron, well, don't you think with what you're talking about and how you're talking about the parents, like how is this going to affect their kids? And his reaction to that is like, he didn't even think about it before. He's just like, oh, well, their dad was drunk on stream before. So like, they already know. They're like, it's already out there. So might as well. Like get into like the sexual nature of your relationship with their parents. In
Even that's
detail?
untrue. Even that is untrue though, because Aaron has come on before all this came out and said that like he was at the Rekietas, he was fixing SpaghettiOs for the kids. And when he first said that, I thought, okay, two things. Number one, where are the other three? Number two, why are they not being attended? And I don't know how many of the kids were there, but how many of the 5 were there that weren't being attended to the point where they've got to get a guest to come and feed them? That was already in my mind. Like, what was going on?
Yeah.
Or to a bed.
And like they had said something about that there was a maid or a nanny there.
I forgot about the nanny
too. And then,
too.
like she quit at some point. And
She
so
had
was she
enough.
the one that was
And
April was
apparently
supposed to be the new nanny.
right, because the nanny had quit in like they said like February, right?
Yeah, 5 months prior. That she'd been gone for 5 months. She saw that and was like, I am out. I am not dealing with this. No,
She probably
ma'am.
saw the button and just scurried. The button was all over the place in that house.
That's what they say.
Man, I can't wait till Nick can finally say something about it. I need more of the story from someone that was participating, because at this point, having learned so much about Aaron, I don't trust anything he says. But I'm sure there's like, a little bit of truth here and there. So I'm just so curious to
Right.
like compare notes. And I did want to make one more
Yeah.
point before we stop talking about this. When that Simpcast episode was on, when Aaron came on, Keanu was already on his show several times a week, because April had left in April, and this happened May the 25th. That's just another
Right.
reason why, like, I was just sort of trying to watch them, because when you told me that he had come on, I wanted to see how
Uh-huh.
they were interacting. Like, was she going to be upset with him? But come to find out, he had just told her the night before the arrest that there was like stuff, well, he only told her that he was sleeping with Kayla, and it had only happened a couple
Right.
times. And she asked him whether or not it was, the same was going on with April and Nick. And he said, not that I know of. So like, there's so much like from here looking back where I'm like, but yeah, I wasn't sure how that interaction would go between, and I knew that she had been on the show with him.
Right.
So I was really curious to see when it was brought up, how much she would say, and how much maybe that she had learned from Aaron in the background that she just hadn't said. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was
Right.
really sort of tiptoeing around things, but I wanted to make that point because she had already been on the show for a while, at least
Right.
once a week, sometimes twice a week by that point. So when he came on and they were talking, and that's another thing that would be interesting to go back and look at, is that interaction between them during that show.
Yeah. Well, I think the first show, because I was looking up different things, because like I said, I'm just going to say it because you'll have to watch this with new eyes. You have to, because this was on the 28th of May. The 27th is when he sent the nude of Kayla to Gino. So this was the day after that,
Wow.
that he reads the application for the search warrant. So I was going back last night. I was going back trying to see if that show was still up. The show for the 28th was still up. Because as you'll see, he had taken it down off YouTube. It's not on YouTube anymore either.
Yeah.
But I think it's still on Rumble. But I had seen the first show that Keanu had come on, back on or something, because I just saw it on the thumbnail, and it was the 18th of April or some. It was somewhere in April, within the first 2 weeks of April.
Yeah.
After April had left. So
Right.
And I was thinking the same thing when I saw that. I was like, it would be really interesting to see their first one back after April had left and before the arrest. So
I feel like we did at some point. I feel like on one of these other episodes, we did watch a couple of them, not the whole thing, obviously, but just watching them interact. But I'm even more curious on Simpcast, because that's a totally different vibe when you're on a panel and it's your homies, it's all your girlfriends that you're used to being around. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I mean, other than when I watched it live that night, I've never gone back to sort of watch their interactions.
I actually did. I have. And I think I even said it to Keanu when she was on our show with us, when we sent her the link or whatever. And I said, you need to go back and watch the Simpcast, because the way that he was talking, you could tell that she was uncomfortable the whole time, like just squirming and stuff in her seat. And I was just like, oh boy.
Well, according to her, this was all new information. I mean, if all Aaron had told her was like, April and I are getting a divorce, will you come on the show? I slept with Kayla a couple of times, and I don't think April and Nick were like messing around. She was hearing some of this stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
It's
probably like,
yeah.
What the hell am I getting into?
Well, that's even more reason why I think we were critical of her, because I'm like, yeah, but then you found out. So it's like, I don't understand. We're not going to go down that road again, but that's added to my curiosity. Like, okay, then you found out that I would feel betrayed. Not really. I mean, like, he doesn't need to tell her all his personal business, but look what he does go around telling people publicly. So I would feel like you wanted me to do you a favor and come help you out on the show with my friend who you're divorcing. Like, you could have at least filled me in so that I wasn't bum rushed on a live stream on a panel. I don't know, just so many questions.
So many still. Oh man.
I was feeding the kids like before then, and then she quit, and then I don't know. It's horrible. It's just so horrible.
Well, Aaron said something at one point about how the nanny was giving Nick and Kayla receipts from when she went to the grocery store, and they were $3,000, $4,000 receipts. Now, how long that was supposed to last the kids, I don't know. And like I said, this is all coming from Aaron. Any and everything I say is either my opinion or what I've heard firsthand from Aaron, who was one of the 4 people involved and around the children. So I don't know that.
And no one's heard anything really from the other 3 involved, right?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Well, April came out and sent like a copy pasta text to everybody, sort of saying, and we'll read it. I've got it. Really short and to the point, not saying, not taking any responsibility for anything actually, but
somebody did this to me.
Has been posting on his locals and Instagram. He's been responding to people, and I think he has been on X too a couple of times responding to people. But it's been very, generalized statements.
Responding to people.
And not about the situation, really.
Well, just there's a lot more to the story than anybody knows. There's stuff that's going to come out in time. I'm going to be streaming again soon. It's just not going to be today, but I'm working up to it. But I should be streaming by the end of the week, stuff like that. So they're active, but they're not.
He was still drinking at this time, too.
Yep. He didn't, because he said he didn't stop drinking until June 5th or whatever. Yep. I mean, so just so you guys know, we never get to that part. I'm just letting you know now. We had so much for this show that we never got to, because
I believe it.
The Aaron of the matter. But we had April, because I think that's when was that the stuff that Gino had read, the messages from April of her saying that someone did this to me, and I think that's what it was. And then, but it's
probably
right.
But Aaron said that on Kino Casino too. He said that that's the only time that he's heard from her. It was like 2 or 3 sentences, very, short,
right.
And said, "I'm healthy, I'm good, I'm sober," something like that. And that somebody did this to me. And that's the same one that Ethan Ralph got, because she sent him the same message. And I'm assuming Gino and them too, but not Kim.
Right.
Not.
Well, and what's wild about this though, this is only 5 days. 5 days since the arrest. So, and still Nick's like, "Oh, I'm going to go back to streaming, blah, blah." And you see how sparse it's been since then. Like either streaming and like the social media, everything, like it's been so all over the place. It's really wild watching this back. It really is.
Well, and by the 25th, or the 28th, excuse me, by the time this show came out, Aaron had already finished or was almost finished with his media tour. So not only was there like the things he was saying on his show, but then like 6 other shows that spawned where he was saying roughly the same things in some areas, but on different shows, he was given different information or more details or, grain of salt kind of stuff. But it was so much to consume all at one time. I mean, it was a lot.
Yeah. It was a lot, because I think it was on this day, on the 28th, too, is when he did the Ethan Ralph stream. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. But
Or
yeah,
Alex
it was.
Brown.
Yeah, or I think it was both of those actually. He did
That
his
day.
show, he did Ralph's show, Alex Stein, and then he did his night show.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, and we're like, geez.
How do you keep up?
I also remember it because his tone was different on those streams compared to the other ones, because he had just read the application for the search warrant earlier that day.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, because that was when he all of a sudden like remembered that there were children involved. Up until that point, we hadn't heard much of anything about the kids or how that, they were coming and going. And that was, I want to say, I don't know exactly for sure what day, but that was when he had read it on his show and got all like dramatic about the kids and was like, "Oh, I just."
And we're going to get into that I'll go 2 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really discussing anything. So yeah, at this point, Aaron's our only viewpoint from the 4, and he is not afraid to tell it all.
No, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't say anything in detail at this time about anything, because it's ongoing,
Yeah.
Like it would be very, very dumb if they did.
Yeah, for sure.
In my
They're
opinion.
only going to further incriminate themselves. But that's another part of the story that I found super interesting. And we can watch the arraignment if you want. I found a really short clip of it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like the full arraignment's like 30 or 20 something minutes, even without commentary. So I don't want to do that. But all three had been charged, Nick, Kayla, and April, because they were all on site on the property when they pulled up with the search warrant. But during the arraignment, Nick finds out that April, well, let me back up. He says, hey, do you have any more questions? The judge says, do you have any more questions or anything you want to bring up? And Nick is like, yeah, I'm supposed to, I'm representing two different clients. And to this point, I've not been allowed to speak to my clients. And I would like to speak to them before first appearance. And the judge is like, oh, okay. Who are your clients? And he was like, oh, well, Kayla, Rekieta, and April Imholte. And they were like, oh, by the way, judge, April's been released. And Nick is like looking down, and Nick's like, he had to do that, but he obviously looks up and gets his attention where he's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So at that point, and let me make this clear too. I don't think moving forward, Nick is going to represent his wife. I think that's a, conflict of interest. They're both co-defendants, right?
Yeah.
But
they don't think they can't.
Yeah, I don't think they can either. But for just like a first appearance, whatever, I guess he was allowed to represent her. He asked the judge says, yeah, that's fine. So they break off for like 15-20 minutes before Kayla comes up to get, read all of her charges. But yeah, so he never had a chance from, I guess, whenever they picked him up at the house to speak to April, because she was already gone. And I have my own theories about that, but let me see. This is a 48-second one. Let me pull this up. Hopefully this will be sort of enough, because all the ones that I'm seeing are pretty long. They're looking at the full arraignment with the wife and April and everything, or well, when they attempted to. Now, why wouldn't that let me zoom in before?
Because I knew you really wanted to.
It's been one of those days, hasn't it? You already know. My mic wouldn't work when I came on. It's just been a real pain. All right, work with me here.
Count one is second-degree possession, 25 grams or more of cocaine or methamphetamine. This is in violation of Minnesota Statute 152.022, subdivision 2, print A, print 1. The maximum sentence for that count is 25 years in prison and/or a $500,000 fine. Count 2 is possession of ammunition or any firearm with.
So what's really funny about this, you hear all those dings, and it's like all the people that are coming in.
Every ding, I'm like,
it's another person.
Yeah,
The
he
user of
knows it
controlled
too.
substances. This is a gross misdemeanor, so the maximum sentence is 364 days in the Kennewick County Jail and/or a $3,000 fine. Count 3, endangerment of a child when present with a sale or possession of a controlled substance. Again, a gross misdemeanor. Count 1.
Okay, so that's just a really short clip of it. I think
His
that
black
really
eye. I
gives
forget
an
about
idea
that
of how the
sometimes.
arraignment went. And like I said, he represented Kayla for a minute. Kayla comes up, gets sort of read the same charges. Yes, I understand. And from what I had heard you, Jackie, the other night talking about their release conditions, and from what I understand,
I was completely wrong. I texted Davey yesterday. I was like, I was wrong. You're right. He said,
well,
thank
what did you think? What did you think at first?
So it was my impression that the terms of their release was to pay for their bail, that they would pay a $50,000 bond and have these different conditions of their release. It was 50,000 and not 50,000 or.
Okay.
But it is the or. You know what I mean? So the condition, they either could pay the $50,000 and not have any of these conditions, or
I'm like,
$50,000.
I know.
Have to do these.
Even I was like
not
to
leaving the
myself,
state, drugs or alcohol, do random drug testing, and basic and get rid of all their.
All right.
firearms.
So anyway, we go through.
Yes.
Yeah. They go through the conditions, and I can't remember what this is, but it's important because we brought it up. But it is really wild because when that all did come out, everyone was like, so what is it? What are they going to do if they pay this? Then they don't have any of these conditions, and they can travel anywhere, they can drink and all that other stuff. Because at the beginning, the conditions were like they couldn't go anywhere, they had to do the random drug testing and everything. But I mean, ipso facto, it happened that they were doing the drug testing anyway because of the child endangerment part of everything.
Yep.
And this is a video from the 24th. So
okay. So this is the potentially criminal video. I don't want to go through that because it's everything that we're
going over the charges.
Yeah, he was just going over the application for the search warrant and stuff like that. Sorry. Okay. I think
kind of what we talked about in that article, but it's just more detailed. So let me pull it up again.
Well, I think to your point about the credit cards, I think that is an issue. I think that is a problem for April.
Okay. Let me go back. So in that potentially criminal video, you're right. He was going through like all the stuff that was found in the house with the search warrant, and we stopped to talk about April's credit cards being found next to the bed. So that's still so wild, man. You thinking about it? Because it's gotten so comical and theatrical as time has gone on. I mean, comical, yes. Sad, yes. But it's just like you forget all these little things that are just like, wow. What?
Well, and when this first came out, with what limited information that we had, we assumed, or, with what we knew at this point, that April's defense was she didn't live there. In other words, that's not her stuff. That belongs to the homeowner or whatever. I was just visiting. And we also found out that I guess it was Kayla who said that she was like a live-in nanny. Like April and Nick both had, were like this, and we're like, no, she was just visiting. But that was important as far as her defense goes, because we found out the credit cards were hers, had her name on them. She had a little personal baggie in her purse, which was next to the bathroom, which is where they found a lot of the other stuff. So it's like, I can remember thinking about it at the time and being like, well, it's a possession charge. Well, how is April going to get out of this? As far as like, I mean, you don't visit your dealer or whatever, and then I don't know. The whole thing is just that. And honestly, from that point up until now, I have wondered, like, is she going to? How is she going to say that none of that was hers? If they found her purse, they found stuff in it, like in her cards, and I just don't know how she can separate herself from this. And I don't know if I said this at the time or not. I'm pretty sure I did. In my head, if I were April, now obviously I wasn't in love with Nick Rekieta and hoping to like become the new Mrs. Rekieta, but she could have so easily turned state's evidence against them. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying in that position she could have, and probably gotten out of any and all charges, which was what at this point all we knew was that she had gotten out before anybody else. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute now, hold on, that's not a thing. And then she got charged later. Remember, they like put the charges back on her, which is so weird.
It wasn't until July. I think it wasn't until July they put charges back on to her. But I remember, I think this comes up, but your theory was that she turned in the dealer.
Well, I was just trying to figure out how she got out of there. Like how is it that she's on the scene? They've got her credit cards. They have all this stuff, and she doesn't get charged. She left before the arraignment. She left before first appearance. So it's like, I'm sitting here like, oh Lord, what if she did? Because according to Aaron, and maybe I feel like Nick too at some point, but she rode with Nick a couple of times to pick up. So in my head, I'm like, dang, what if she, instead of rolling over on Nick and Kayla, gave up the big man to get completely off the charges? Like I said, limited information at this point. Just sort of, throwing stuff at the wall. But
I still want to know why. I mean, maybe it was explained and I just forgot, but like why it took so long for her to be officially charged.
I don't know, which also makes me wonder, like, let's go with the first theory. Okay, she turned state's evidence. She's given them all this information about, what was going on over there when he picked up or whatever. It would make sense to me that during that time, she incriminated herself to the point where they're like, we have to charge her. Like maybe she was giving up a bunch.
Girlfriend grotto.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe she had given up so much information that there were things that she, admitted to that they couldn't walk away from and not charge her with. I don't know. Hell, I don't know. But at the time, that was my thought, was like, ooh. I've never heard of the cops like having arrested someone. Here are your charges. The other two people that are involved, same, date, criminal act, whatever, leave and get out on it. And then one person doesn't, and unless they're, talking. And do you remember at one point Aaron coming on? It must have been right when she got charged again, or I guess recharged. But do you remember him coming on and talking about how she must have said a bunch of things and like because there was a big to-do about her not having been read her rights or something, or she was, and then the cops continued to question her and all that.
Yes.
He had made a big deal about that too, where he's like, that's not supposed to happen, and anything that was used during that time. And I think that might have even been part of the motion to dismiss the first round of those from Nick's attorneys were saying, like, y'all had her in this room, she'd been read her rights, and then you continue to question her, so none of that is admissible. So I mean, there was so much going on with that where I'm like, maybe she said too much and they just couldn't not charge her. I've never heard of somebody being like, charged, no, we're not going to charge you, never mind any of that, you don't need any bail or any of that, and a couple months down the road be like, oh well, we meant to like, what is that?
I don't know. I really don't.
Really strange.
If someone could tell us, please, like, let us know, because
it wasn't a new charge or like a different charge. It was the exact same charge as the original. So it's like, why would you take that off?
Doesn't make sense to me.
Very odd.
It is odd.
Because Nick told the police he spoke with them willingly without a lawyer present, even though he is one, but he spoke with them and explained that April doesn't live with them and that she was just visiting the home. And it's just the question of, like, obviously there was stuff on the cards, it's pretty clear what she was doing, but to find it next to the bed, I mean, I don't know, that bothers me.
Well, she was cleaning the house and then was like, oh, let me buy something online, let me pull out my credit card, and then just left it there.
One problem: the house, we know, has clothes all over the place, has dust and mold, and that was part of the neglect charge. So she ain't cleaning anything.
I didn't say she was a good maid.
Definitely not. But you would think, like, they've got to be bouncing off the walls if they're doing all this stuff. Like, why is nothing clean?
I know, which is like, that's the part that it bothers me when they said, like, they walked into the house and it was like in that much disarray, and you've got 3 adults there. Like, what about the grandparents? Like Aaron kept saying that, like, the kids would go to the grandparents' house a lot. Like, what, did they have anything to say? Or was it a normal thing for the house to be in that disarray even before?
I don't think that the parents, Nick's parents, I don't know if I don't know if that set of grandparents ever frequented the house or had been there in a while. I have no idea, but I know now that you say that, it makes me wonder if the kids complained, to the grandparents about their condition at the home, and they were some of the ones that went to the pastor. I don't know if they go to the same church or not.
And this is before we found out that, what was it, Kayla's sister or something was one of the people that said something to the pastor, right?
Yep, because Nick was he was talking mad smack about that afterwards. Yep.
Yeah.
I can't. All right. Do you want me to play more of that video, or?
Yeah, I don't know where you were when it jumped.
Okay.
People use.
All right. So this is more of
when Kayla was in jail, she requested her prescription medication be brought to her. The prescription bottles for Kayla that were brought to the jail staff found 2 unknown pills and gummies on one of the prescription bottles. The items did not match the prescription on the bottle. I'm surprised she wasn't charged for that. The issue with whether or not she stays there full time, whether or not she's considered a resident, that kind of stuff is a little foggy. But as we know, the charges as of now have been dropped against April, and she's gone. I wonder if any additional charges will be put on Kayla for attempting to bring illegal substances into a jail facility. Maybe they caught it and that's not a thing and it didn't get through the doors, but that's kind of.
Well, I'm wondering what kind of medications and stuff there are, because, like, I was like thinking, like, what is it that people use ketamine for, right? And it is a pain reliever, but it also could be like a hallucinogen.
We need a name for these random. I really don't know.
I'm not
very familiar with it, but is it not used mainly to treat like animals?
I think it's our
learning with Jackie, like a big rainbow. The more you know with Jackie.
Listen, I'm totally one of those people. If I don't know, I need to look it up. If I have the opportunity to look it up right then and there, I'm going to do it, because I have to know. Well, especially because during this time too, we were talking about how they had found like these sores all over his skin, and I was just like, oh, was he picking from like an anxiety thing or because of the cocaine use? And we're like, well, what was the brown substance? And
right. Yeah, because I can remember being like, I don't know what color ketamine is. I don't know.
Yeah. And we find out, and I'm like, oh, there's a ton of colors.
Ketamine, and that's my ignorance on it, but I've always heard that ketamine was used in like surgeries on animals.
Well, and it also could be used for surgeries on people. There's these things like that are coming out, like ketamine therapies. Like I just found an article from MD talking about ketamine treatment for helping with severe depression.
Microdosing.
Okay.
So there's different uses for it, including treating bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and as well as substance use disorders. It can be injected and intravenously. So that's interesting. It's a horse tranquilizer.
Look
Yes.
at you.
What color is ketamine? Like, what color is it in pill
Ooh.
form? Ooh, is
No,
there?
different.
I mean, they said green as far as in the bottle, but I'm still wondering what the brown was, what the brown substance that they're not testing on site, which is interesting.
Mhm.
They tested everything else on site. Maybe they didn't.
And
have
we
the
never
right
heard about that again.
testing equipment to do it. But I'm curious,
didn't.
like, is some?
But we
is
also
some
don't
ketamine
have the
brown?
results of whether or not the cocaine was
Um,
cocaine.
It looks.
Right, that's
I don't
true.
know. I see a
don't.
picture of it here. Let me just show you. I just found
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Like, what
look at
does
all the
ketamine look
pills
like in
that
pill
come up
form?
here.
And it's like all different colors. And they're like, oh, the party drug. And I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. Well, I guess it is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that would potentially explain away the arm situation. Maybe.
Yeah.
They were partying.
Well,
or
because did
maybe
they
not.
say that the some of the pills in Kayla's thing was green?
Yeah.
So just look.
I mean, I guess
I
some of
feel
those
like at one
are-
point they said the ketamine pills were green. I feel like at one, like in the thing that said 7 or 8 green pills that ended up testing as ketamine. I don't know.
Mhm.
Some of this stuff I don't know if I've dreamt
I know.
or what, but okay, doesn't matter.
All right, so we could skip all that. We're just gonna skip it because just skipping through. All right.
Yeah. I don't even know.
So let's see.
Just try
let me show you
processing.
this
Like sweet baby Jesus, what is going on
timeline
here?
for this.
Ah, look at
That's
her.
a great picture.
I know that's what I'm using for the
Excuse me.
thumbnail. One of them. So shout out to Nobody Likes Onions and Patrick Melton. He says, I've been told Aaron contacted a friend after talking to Kayla and spilled some beans. This friend was obligated to report by law, which happened on May 16th. May 17th, Aaron tells April to come home. May 21st, and this is all from Aaron's admission on his show, saying these things as he does like a morning show and an evening show almost every day throughout the week, sometimes weekends. May 21st, Aaron screams for help for his friend to stop, begs April to go to her parents now. May 22nd, Aaron dances with powdered sugar on his nose, making fun of the friend he's worried about, Nick. Talks to April's parents again tells April and Kayla to get out of there. May 23rd.
Davey just wrote that Aaron deleted the episode that he did today.
Nuh-uh. What about on Rumble?
Hold on. Hold on.
You got it pulled up?
I have it pulled up of him
See.
reading the application for a search warrant.
What?
So,
Okay, let's swap
and
this
it's
out.
playing. So
Go for it. It's all yours, because if he did pull that, then he's probably pulled Rumble and everywhere else.
yeah, well, I have it up on YouTube, and I don't know why it's
Will
still
play.
yeah. So this is what I
As
have
long as
here.
you have the tab up, it should play.
Okay.
Let's see how long it'll go, if it will play.
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well,
Wow. I'm wondering if he got contacted by a lawyer or somebody and told to take it down because of the implications of him in the application for a search warrant, since it already came out, and then the stuff that he's been talking about.
I still don't know why he took it down. I think as we go through this, we figure it out. Though. I think we find out. I think we're like, oh, that's probably why. I remember us saying that, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But
usually it's like copywritten stuff that he's playing. It's like a WWE clip or NFL clip or something stupid. And I can't remember when this wasn't this around the time of the Olympics. I know he had a bunch taken down for it because he was showing the Olympics. Maybe that was after. I don't know. But usually if something's taken down, it's not out of embarrassment, but because he's an idiot and doesn't know copyright laws.
Yeah. I don't know. I say skip to okay. He starts reading the application for the search warrant. I'm gonna play it from here because just his attitude from the beginning until he starts reading the stuff about the children is You see the arrogance kind of ebb and flow. And then after he's
Right.
done reading about the kids, the arrogance goes right back up. So,
I'm going to listen and run to the bathroom, but I'm listening.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
I'm gonna- okay.
Well, I guess this is public information, isn't it? I mean, I'm not.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. The residence has a tar driveway leading east from the street. The residence is 2 stories with a 3-stall garage. The main door is located on the south or southwest side of the residence. And then Nicholas Robert Rekieta, date of birth. Located in the city or township of New London, county of Kandiyohi, state of Minnesota. I apply for a search warrant on the following grounds. The possession of the property or things above described constitutes a crime. The property or things above described constitutes evidence which tends to show a crime has been committed or tends to show that a particular person has committed a crime. The facts establishing the grounds for issuance of a search warrant are as follows. Your applicant is Detective Quinn Complin, a licensed peace officer.
I'm so sorry. I'm pausing it right here because if for those who can't see it, I'll just explain it to you. So we're watching it back, and Haley is gone on this stream and also the one that we're watching at the same time. So it's pretty funny. I just saw it, and I was like writing as me from the past was writing. So okay, I need to take some more medication.
Officer in the state of Minnesota since 2009. Your affiant has been I could be saying that word wrong. Has been employed by the Kandiyohi County Sheriff's Office since 2013. Since 2018, your affiant has been assigned to the Detective Division.
Okay.
Now we're on.
Apparently, that's a good time to take a break.
Apparently,
We don't need that part.
I know. Well, what's funny, I had my head down and I was writing something, and I looked up, and me from the past was writing at the same time, and then you're
Weird.
It's so weird. I know. All right, so I'm going to push play, and now I'm going to go. I'll be right back.
I'm
Okay.
listening.
My name on this page too. Oh, yep, there we go. There, I'm going to be there.
I just heard Jackie cackling. I'm like, what's
On a full-time
happening?
basis,
I'm running
focused on
back.
felony level crimes, including but not limited to criminal
It was
sexual
just
crimes,
like, I was like,
homicide.
I couldn't
Right.
tell if it was you now or you
homicide,
from
death
the past
investigation, missing
laughing. That's why I was
persons, fatal motor
like,
vehicle crashes, burglary,
what am I
theft,
missing?
harassment,
what's
stalking,
going
assaults,
on?
controlled substances,
All right.
child sex abuse material,
Okay, I'll
and
be back.
financial crimes. From 2013 to 2018, your affiant was assigned to the Kandiyohi County Sheriff's Office Patrol Division for investigating street-level crimes. I'm sorry I'm reading all this, guys. I haven't pre-read this at all. Including but not limited to driving under the influence, controlled substance crimes, thefts, burglaries, assaults, financial crimes, frauds, and domestic violence. This is just about him. So let's go to case background. On May 16th, 2024, Kandiyohi County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Dave Nestor received a report regarding possible child neglect and controlled substance use. The reporter indicated that Nicholas Robert Rekieta resides at the address. He resides at the residence with his wife, Kayla Christine Rekieta, date of birth, and 5 children, ages 6 to 16. The
Here he
reporter indicated
goes.
that 4 people from their church, 4 people from their church had gone to him reporting neglect to the children, possible controlled substance use, and a questionable relationship with an additional couple. So people in the community
Already sniffed it all out.
Okay, so yeah, so all
Imagine
the people are
that.
going, Aaron's dropping dimes, Aaron's ratting. Apparently, the whole fucking world knew about it. We didn't do a
Hi,
great job of
Spaceballs.
hiding it.
Welcome for joining.
It was reported that Nicholas is a social media blogger, and he and his wife Kayla had befriended hosts from a different local social media blogger. Those individuals were identified as Aaron Michael Imholte. It's me.
It's getting
And
close
April
to where
Diana.
you see it
Your
in his
affidavit
face.
knows personally. there
I
were
had to
three
sort of
bizarre
guess where he was
personalities of
at,
Steel
so
Toe
sorry.
Morning Show.
Oh no,
my
no, you're
God,
fine.
Was the detective a fucking fan of this?
Was the detective a
Your
fan of the
affiant
Steel Toe
knows
show?
personally. These are personalities of the Steel Toe Morning Show, which used to be in St. Cloud, Minnesota radio. The fucking detective was a fan of the radio show.
That's
Never
Aaron's
make it
ego
worse.
again.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
no.
important for people to see what he was like before
Oh, this is
reading it to
embarrassing
like
for
when
me.
he gets
Oh,
to
this
that
is so fucking
point.
bad.
Did you just hear him? Oh, this is embarrassing for me.
However, as of recent years, the show has been a social media
Hold on.
entertainment show
Sorry.
strictly on.
The kids were
ahead.
such an
That's
afterthought.
embarrassing, and not you like going around on all these like different podcasts and stuff for the past 5 days. Like it's like the best thing that has ever happened to you, and being like, "Oh, look at all the money I'm getting," and you know, talking about your sexual depravity, as you said, as you have called it.
So
And
Aaron,
this is embarrassing.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not a fan of the show. I'm in a different realm of what they sort of call the Dabbleverse. I'm more of a voyeur of people that they call lolcows. And for people that don't know what that is, that's different online personalities that are sort of a train wreck. And so other It was like
a
social media
confession.
content creators will quote unquote like milk
Confessional.
the lol cow. So LOL for haha, that's funny. Look at you, you're a joke. Sorry.
And
then-
the little cow.
Yeah, that's how they make their money, right? Like their
Mhm.
content is based on these people who are train wrecks. So for me, Aaron was
Right.
always sort of a lol cow that I was watching because he was so insufferable that he has, made a clown of himself, in my opinion, all over the place. And that's one of the main things about Aaron is his ego. It's all about Aaron. Aaron is very narcissistic. He is the only important thing in the world. April was a co-host of his for a while. He brought her onto the show, his wife, the one that's in all of this paperwork.
Mhm.
And it never worked out. He was always, sort of beaten up on her and very just gross to her, to be quite honest.
And just reading all all the gross things that people in the chat were saying about her. Like,
Yeah.
that's just not cool. And like, you'd say, oh, I'm defending her, but like, no, you really weren't. You're actually like
No.
encouraging it more than
Yeah,
anything.
he was. There's lots of shows where he was like telling his chat to go ahead and attack her. At one point, he does this thing where he does like a daily goal for the morning show and a daily goal for the night show. It's usually like $350 somewhere in that area. That's how much he will beg from his
Nothing
audience,
has
like, to the point where
changed.
he's even taken like
Mhm.
what is it,
That.
church? Oh my
like
gosh.
an offering plate.
Yes, thank you. I'm embarrassed that I didn't know that. Yes, an offering plate and hold it out and like
Okay.
manipulate it over the audience, like, oh, we
I've
need some
never
money,
seen
blah
the
blah blah.
op-
It's in the
I've
goal.
never seen him do the offering
one day
plate.
as part of
Shut
the
your
goal, they were like,
mouth.
if we hit the goal
I'm
before
not
X amount of
joking.
time,
I've never seen
April will
him
come
do
on
it.
tomorrow wearing a bikini. And so that came to pass. They made the goal. April came on and shaked her butt all around in a little black bikini. And my point is, his audience, even the ones that were like hyping it up to see whether or not he would do it, because the majority of his audience are people who are just watching to see what he'll do. And if they can coax him into doing some of the things that they want to see, this was one of them. So she comes on the screen and they go off about how he's pimping her out and how he's, using her to obviously make money and get attention and so forth. And that was sort of the downfall of April leaving the show. From that point forward, April was like completely mortified. And you got to remember, at this time, she was already going over to the Rekieta a bunch. They were frequenting that place where, by Aaron's own admission, they were swinging, they were doing all kinds of things,
And he
as we're
admitted like
finding out.
his relationship with her wasn't that great. And he was having more of a romantic relationship with Kayla, Rekieta.
Yeah. Yep.
Because
said
I'll
that-
be honest, he doesn't talk very much about the relationship between April and Nick, but he does talk very intimately about his relationship with Kayla.
Mhm.
And that never changed either.
Mm-mm.
I mean, even still, like that never changed throughout this whole thing. He never talked about he never really talked about Kayla and drug use ever. From what I can remember, I have never heard him say
No.
about it other than like she wanted to stop and she was trying to get out of here, like that type of stuff. He was
Yep.
always very complimentary towards her.
You're right. I don't remember hearing one story where he was like, we were all doing it. She did a line or two, or she popped such and such pill and then he's never said
Right.
anything that I've heard.
No,
You're right.
He's never said anything about seeing her do drugs. I'm not saying like, because like with Nick and April, he's always like, oh well, they would go into the bathroom and they're like doing lines and stuff. I had never heard him say that about Kayla ever.
Nope.
And that's why with the whole revenge, and like this is before the revenge porn stuff. And like I said, keeping in mind that him reading this was the day after he had sent the nude of Kayla to Gino. But that's
Not
why
a care in the world with that.
Nope. But and that's why we've always said from the beginning, with the revenge porn charges, I don't think there was an intent to harass her at all. Like,
No.
you're just like, hey, your boy didn't do too bad, did he?
Ugh. I'm listening to you. I was just trying to find any video clip of him with the offering plate because I can't believe you've not seen that. So I'm looking around for that, but I'm listening.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna move forward with this. So
he basically said that when they first started doing this, it was obvious what they were doing and they would pair off and switch partners and go do their own things. But that as time went on, it seemed like,
I got chill bumps real quick. I was like,
but yeah, so that they were finding out that when they did that he said at one point that they were probably tired of each other, and wanted to be with someone else, but that they both like their personalities were very similar once they swapped wives. I don't know, but I only brought all of that up because Aaron's personality in all of this, it's like its own character in the story. He feeds his ego. even throughout this, when he reads it and he hears, what like the severity of how this even came about with the children telling the teachers and the church members and all that, I can't ignore the fact that it always comes back to him and how this affects him, and how like he doesn't even talk about the children for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes after he hears it. It's all about him and his actions and how it affected him and
what he didn't do because he was doing something else. He, I, me. Now. It makes me think of Hook.
Dude, I was in the chat.
Do you know what that reference is from? Have you ever seen Hook?
Seen what?
The movie Hook. Oh, all right. It's nope, not
Peter
Robert
Pan.
Paul.
I mean, I get that, right? But no,
yeah. It's the guy who plays Hook. He's like talking about kids nowadays that they're like, I want, me. Yeah. So, and it just reminds me of Aaron.
Yeah. He's like nobody I've ever seen before. And I say that all the time, but I'm surprised this far into it that I'm not less, not surprised, but like fascinated, I guess, with who it is I'm looking at. Like, this is a real human being. Like,
yeah. I'm gonna move it just a little forward because like once he starts talking about all this stuff, it's like insane.
Here it says version 2, May 1st, 2023. I guess this is like a general template that they go through and fill out or something.
I'll get plug and play type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because it says 523 right here. Okay, here we go.
Oh, guys, I'm going to warn the audience in advance. This is going to be a tough read for me.
For him.
This is going to really make me feel like the piece of shit I am.
I found it.
We're gonna, guys, I'm just going to tell you.
All right, you found it.
Yeah, we could have waited, but I got excited.
Okay. Well, let's watch that first because this is when it starts getting into like him reading about what the reporter said about the children and different things like in his ups and downs and stuff.
Well, that's why I thought, let me just go ahead and say it before we get too far removed from it. This is Nat Clue 2.0.
You couldn't take it as anything but.
After getting fired from the radio station, the Twitch grift was in full effect. Aaron was divorced or going through one at this time. I honestly don't know or don't care, but he was streaming on Twitch and maybe something else. Anyways, he had different co-hosts at times. Aaron started holding content hostage until a certain number of viewers or money was reached. He still operates this way today. It's the opposite of how a good show normally works. What do I mean by good show? One that does.
So anyway, that's just a picture of it. I don't have time to sit here.
I haven't seen it,
but
I haven't seen it in a while. It hasn't been out.
And April would take it sometimes too and shake it. He'd be like, get it out. And she would take it and have it like right up in the camera with like a couple dimes in it and be like, and they would have music going on in the background. And it was a whole thing. Sorry, I had to show you. I can't believe you've never seen it. But he took one of those huge steel toe stickers and just stuck it in the bottom of it. Yeah. And I'm also thinking to myself, did you take that from the church?
I don't know.
Can you buy those? Can you just go on Amazon and buy like a
maybe probably? Right? Yeah, but I honestly have not seen him. He hasn't shaken it. He didn't shake it.
Yeah, these were like, oh, please don't. No, these were like 2 years ago, I guess 2022-ish.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Hang on 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay. Johnny, I'm
gonna play this.
Tell you in advance. We're about to. I think I'm about to have a come to Jesus moment.
Okay.
Reading this because I read ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Fuck. God, am I a fucking? God, I'm a piece of shit. Like this is gonna be like I'm struggling to read this because. God, it's good. Like I've been admitting that I'm a fail. Right. That I've failed. Like I've been admitting that I failed my children, their children. I mean, people, some people that support me say, "Oh, but you got your children out." Yeah, but motherfucker, this one's gonna suck because I'm about to hear from their children, who I love. I love their kids. And the worst part is, like, they were on drugs a lot of the time, and I wasn't on drugs near as much, and I didn't dabble near as much. So I was the sober one, especially during the day. who saw this and could have. God,
It's not.
fucking damn it.
Doesn't make you look any better, dude.
Forget Kayla, Nick, April,
Sorry
you know,
about
all this
that.
stuff.
You're good.
God damn it.
Holiday
I'm really gonna
break.
beat myself up over this.
Kids.
I'm sorry, Ryobi. I'm not going to
Yeah.
answer phone calls at this time. It was reported from a church preschool teacher that the children had complained of being hungry, not being fed, and wearing the same clothes for 3 to 4 days at a time and would start to smell. Nicholas was reported to being lethargic and appeared high or drugged driving a car around. Another individual advised the reported that Nicholas will walk out randomly during sermons at church and have noticed behavioral changes in him. Oh, sorry. I think I'm going to make the audience, I'm going to make, people should have to watch me as I read.
Hold on. Yep.
Why did we stop it then? What?
Look, man. You know, I've listened to a couple of Aaron's shows in the morning, you know, as of late, and he always talks about how his detractors, people that don't like him, how invested they are and how we just all want to see him die and want to see his show implode and blah, blah, blah. It's not that at all. I don't wish that upon him or anybody.
Mm-mm.
But just like a minute ago when I said I'm fascinated with this human being for the same reason, what he just said, that's why we both were stop everything, because it's always just about him, to the point where he's like, I'm doing all these theatrics, like I acted super arrogant and stuff. Now we get to the kid part. You guys should have to look at me while I do my performance. It's like when your kid runs out and he's like, you know, I made up a song. Everybody watch, you know, everybody sit down in the living room and watch me perform this. It's the same vibe where he's like, I'm getting ready to put on a show for you, and I need to make sure that I'm front and center. Like,
Yeah. I know.
I don't hate Aaron. I don't like him at all, but I don't hate him. And it's one of those things where I can't believe that this person exists. I just can't believe anyone would live their life where he is literally the center of attention all the time, no matter what. And everybody else sort of orbits around him to where that's why he's histrionic. He only lives in this moment right now. And he banks on the fact that you're going to forget what he said Monday, or you're going to forget what he said yesterday about A, B, C, and D. He doesn't like the internet is forever. He literally said that the internet is temporary. And I feel like he thinks that people will just forget and not go back and check what he said or not call him out on it. And because of that, he lives in this literal bubble where it's the Aaron bubble. And everybody else brushes up against, you know, the Aaron bubble, and they are blessed to have been able to get that close to him. Like,
I know. Wait, I want to make you, my audience, watch me go through this tumultuous time, and you can see my pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because also part of that was like him trying to sell to us that he was just as bad or worse, or, you know, I'm not the one, I'm not free of sin, blah, blah, blah. Like that was during that era where he's, you know, it was such a, it was very important for him to sell it to us as if he's repented and, you know, washed his sins away, but you should hold him to account. So the hero victim, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all within the same story. He'll be the hero and the victim.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and in that moment though, if you're like really like, oh my gosh, like this is actually happening, would you even think, oh, I need them to look at me while I'm reading this?
Mm-mm.
Oh my word.
And it's about the children too. So it's like, for 1 second, could it be about them and not about you?
Yep. Oh yeah.
He's so gross.
I know. I'm going to push play.
Okay.
I deserve that. I fucking feel so bad right now.
Watch out.
Because none of this is fucking news to me.
I'll be right back. Hold on. Give me a second.
Yep.
I saw all of it. Now, the clothes, God, I'm really fucking stupid because, like, the clothes multiple days in a row, I didn't realize. But then again, I was doing the show during the day. So I guess I wouldn't see them that much during the day. I was there maybe like 2 days a week during the week and then 2 or 3 days during the weekend. But yeah, I should have been more attentive to the clothes thing. But I knew kids were being neglected. I fucking knew it. I fucking, people make jokes about them making SpaghettiOs and stuff. But like, wow, Aaron, you put a fucking can of SpaghettiOs in the microwave. What are you, fucking Jesus Christ? No, I didn't do enough. Oh, this is going to be fucking hard to read and I'm stalling.
But hold on. See, Aaron slips a lot in between some of his, grandstanding and look at me. He slips a lot and says the truth, and he'll, bulldoze right over that into something else. But I think it's important to, he says, I knew the children were being neglected. I didn't pay attention to A, B, C, and D, but I knew the children were being neglected. The bottom line, and the only thing that I have heard over the weeks and weeks of this, when I listened to his stories and how he's, explaining all this, is that was never in the forefront of any 4 of their minds. Now, you can say, okay, 3 of them were heavily into different, drugs and alcohol and doing their thing over here on this side. But Aaron has put himself out there as the hero in all of these stories, who got out and broke away from this. And, basically, I was able to stop because I knew this was not the right thing and blah, blah, blah. But not once is he saying, like, him saying right here that he knew that it was child neglect and he saw it. He puts his pleasure and their pleasure too in front of not 5 children, 8 children, because he was bringing his children over there. They were coming to their house where, Aaron's children were. And it's important to note, April and Aaron don't have any children together. These 3 children are from Aaron's first marriage. So none of these children are April's. But it really, really bothers me that, number one, it's almost as if like he read the child neglect charges and thought, okay, yeah, whatever, something else that they've tacked on. Because like in this moment, even though I know a lot of it's like him sort of being, theatrical and a little dramatic, it's like it hasn't dawned on him. And then for him to come right into it and be like, yeah, they were being neglected. I saw this. I didn't do anything.
He seems like almost like a yes man. Like, how can I fit that into my story that I've been telling? Almost like, this bothers me. And I remember once this happened, I was going back through our Telegram chat and I was like, no, he did not. But
yeah, it's bad.
So he's talking about this. He would talk a lot of shit about the Rekietas and stuff before this. Okay, the days prior has been like, "What about your kids? You're a parent. Your kids, bah bah bah," about the kids, and you're like, bro. Once I heard, honestly, the other day, what was it, Monday, when I was reviewing the Simpcast that he was on, and Ashton asked him about, you're talking about all this. What about their kids? And his reaction,
she's the only one that asked about that,
told me everything I needed to know. So this kind of like, I kept telling you, I can't, there's just something about his demeanor and all this and how it's almost, what's it called? Shit. I had the word in my head, but he's acting like he's reviewing what happened. Like all this stuff happened years ago. And he has this new perspective and years of reflection and,
I get to it eventually. It's contrition.
It's not consternation. No, it's another word, but it starts with a C. And like this reflection of, years of reflection, of repentance, of everything. And he's acting like that. And it's like, bro, you left 7 weeks ago. Like, that's not that long in the whole grand scheme of things, with everything that you guys were into, how different apparently that was from the life that you were living previously to now. Like, you can't just sit there and act like all holier than thou one moment, and then the next moment that you're on screen talking about how you're a piece of shit, and you're getting more attention for saying you're a piece of shit. And someone had a great comment in this show that I actually sent to you, and I had to find it because he's like, he's getting off on this embarrassment, and that's what it seems like it is. And it's well, I mean, like I said, I know that there are people that, are like, oh, this is horrible that this has happened to him. It is horrible that it happened to him, but he has a lot of responsibility that he says that he's taking responsibility for. But his reaction to this tells me everything that he's been saying for the past few days was bullshit when it came to his concern for the children.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, I think, he knows right now how many thousands, hundreds of thousands, probably, people are focused in on this story. People that love Nick Rekieta that had no idea who he was up until last week. He knows that these people are looking for the one person that's going to talk about it, because they know that he's been open about the situation and willing to speak on the matter. So His chat has gone from 250 people on any given day on a live stream to this morning on YouTube, it was 1.6 thousand. I think was the highest I'd seen. Live chatters, live people watching.
Oh, wow.
He knows that. He also knows that I heard him say the other day, and
Back down to
think about
250,
it doesn't matter,
400,
but
somewhere in there.
bragging about how much money he has made the first couple of days on live stream or super chats and donations and all this, how much money, how profitable this has been for him and his channel, how his channel has grown. Couple thousand different followers. Basically, he knows right now this is his cash cow. He knows that while the iron is hot kind of thing, like he knows that he's got to take advantage of this and milk this for as long as people are interested in it. He started the show out by saying, "Oh, I know y'all are tired of hearing this, blah blah blah, but I figured this will run out. We're probably going to talk about it for the rest of the week. I'm going to have so and so on to discuss their reaction, so and so on to have their reaction." No, he knows exactly what he's doing, and if he paints himself out as the martyr in this situation, that's what he's done, is let me fall on the sword, let me be the, it makes him the hero in every single one of his stories, and that goes into the sexual stories and into some of the depravity. But it's very interesting to me to see him willingly take all the arrows that are being thrown at him. But it's because with that, some of the new viewers that don't know him and don't know how his ego is and how he runs his show, and even maybe his
on
part in the
point.
matter, why he's even involved, they're going to look at him as a victim to some degree, and they're watching all these people beat up on him and stuff. They're going to come and defend him, and so much of this is ego driven, and it's a narcissist to the nth degree. It's gross. But
the word was contrition. He was acting with such contrition. Because it's perfect. It's the perfect word. I wrote it because I remember I wrote it to you. Sometimes when I write things to people, it like leaves my brain because I already got it out. But it's the perfect word to explain how he's reflecting on the situation. It's bewildering to me. And there was something that happened. He was talking to someone. I mean, maybe it was on Kino or it was on Simcast. And I remember, and we have notes on all of it. We were writing back and forth to each other about it. But he would talk about, maybe we should wait till we get there, about why he left, like talking about why he left, and because he was talking about kids. But that wasn't the reason why he left.
Yeah, since I was in the live chat this morning, I had a question before this popped up. My question in my mind was, who was the anonymous person that spoke to the pastor, and the pastor, being the mandated reporter, went to the cops? Who was the person in between? So this whole time I've been like, man, I really think Aaron got a hold of the pastor's ear. I don't know. I don't have any proof of that, but I'm really curious. And then early in this morning show, he was talking about going to church with Nick. And so I was in the chat like, did y'all go to the same church? Because that would have made sense to how he could have gotten a hold of the pastor's ear. So I was just trying to get his attention, and I finally did. I had to super chat, but I asked, and I said, do you go to the same church? And explain like what the tipping point was for why you broke off from all of this. And I don't know how much you heard of it, but literally none of it had anything to do with the children. None of it.
No, it had nothing.
Yeah, it was just like basically that, Nick was getting jealous of how close, he had gotten with his wife, Kayla. And anyway, just to your point, none of it had anything to do with the children or their welfare or what it was doing.
And later on, what did Nick say? Kayla was the one that kicked him out. Remember him? Yeah. I wonder if that's actually true or not either.
Do you remember recently, I think it was on the Dick Show, but I'm not totally for sure, where Nick said that Aaron has a way of taking himself and putting it, like replacing himself with one of the other characters in the story. So if Kayla is the one that kicked him out or whatever, like he manipulates whatever the truth of the story is to put himself in a favorable position. That's what this reminds me of. Like if Kayla was the one that kicked him out versus, no, Nick was jealous and didn't want me around anymore and it got to be too much. So I just said, I'm done with this and I left.
Right.
Like, is that how it went? So it makes me want to until we hear more from other parties that were involved, all we have is what Aaron says. But I look at it even back then, but especially now with like how much of this is totally, misconstrued and bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, what if some of the stories that we've heard are just absolutely 100% made up? I wouldn't be surprised if they were, but it makes me wonder, of which stories was it?
Right.
April, was it Nick and Aaron making snow angels in the backyard? Was it, I don't know. Replace him and with someone else in any of the stories that he's told, and it makes it pretty hilarious. But that would completely change
the circumstances too. Like if you knew that whatever didn't happen and it was actually April or Kayla that was doing it and not Aaron, that would completely change the way like whatever that circumstance was looks like. I don't know.
Like, what if it was actually April that got upset that there was cocaine found in the house?
Right.
And it wasn't, and it was him and Kayla actually up in the bedroom, locking themselves in, doing the drugs. Like,
what if Aaron was the one that had the bullet and it was Nick's youngest that, was left? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, how many of these stories are going to be totally false?
I know. It's a trip.
Them psychologically or any of that. And he's also made comments in the past about some of Rekieta's kids like messaging April and Aaron saying like my parents are in the bedroom screaming and yelling at each other. I'm afraid, blah blah blah. And he's like trying to calm them down and so forth. So it's not, he doesn't have plausible deniability to say that he had no idea that that what they were doing was. Why would the kids have their numbers?
Well, and another thing was is like how he would talk emphatically and very emotionally about how he was upset when they had brought drugs over to his own home when his kids were there, and he'd yell and like bang the table yelling about how angry he was about it. But then I was just like, but bro, you were more than happy to go over to your friend's house with his kids there and do those things there. What because what does it give you some type of like, I don't know, like almost like a cognitive dissonance or like a compartmentalization that, oh, well, this is just how they handled their household. I handle my household different. So I'm just gonna
my brain was broken when I first my brain broke because this is the first time I was ever like saw like in real life and not like on some like true crime show, like someone that could be like this and and in that situation. And I was just like, I just never had seen it so up close before. And
with shows like
real time.
That's what I was gonna say. With shows like true crime shows and stuff, you get the recap. You get this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. We're watching it live in real time, minute for minute, and I think that's where the fascination lies, where you're just like glued to the screen because you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Did you hear recently that supposedly Alex Stein is supposed to be doing a documentary on this? Because this whole time I've thought like this would make for a really interesting documentary, like at the very end when everything, the court cases are done and so forth, and who would be willing to do it. But I'd like to know more about that. Alex's.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just making it up. I don't know.
Well, do you see how happy Aaron was? And he's like, yeah, call me right up. I'll be right there. I'll help you out.
Yeah.
I don't care what kind of light you shine on me, as long as there's light shining on me.
Basically. And you know what else he said about
spell my name. Just spell my name right. Right. It's one of those.
He also said that he felt like in documentaries that a lot of times they leaned one way or the other, and that they wouldn't have the subjects that were involved in the film that they were talking about on to interview. And I thought, okay, well, having worked in film, sometimes you can't get that person, or sometimes the scheduling just doesn't work, or sometimes they're not willing to come on because they think that the film is going to be framed a certain way. There's all kinds of reasons why you can't get certain people on. Anyway, I could go further into detail with that, but that's not it. People, when you do a documentary, it's not like you want to leave that out. If you're being fair, you have all sides present their story to you because you want the viewer to walk away having made up their own mind, not frame it around, one viewpoint. So anyway, he's just ignorant. But when he said that, I thought, well, of course you want to be in it. I mean, it's the Aaron Imholte story anyway, isn't it? It's not the Rekieta Imholte saga or tragedy or whatever they end up titling it. It's literally always just about Aaron.
Yep.
Every moment of every day.
Well, and also because he's the only one that can really speak on it too. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Maybe if it like tables were turned, Nick would be out there talking about everything. But maybe. I don't know. That would be interesting.
I still
Just
feel like
do-
he might. Nick might, because Nick has some petty in him too. He
Yeah.
is not above it. But I do think, to an extent, that if the tables were turned, that Nick would hold back until some of the court stuff started to go through. I think I say that, but you know what? In the same freaking breath, he has made some really stupid moves in the middle of these charges against him. There are things that he has said and done that I would never. And it really shocked me to see that he did it. So I don't know. If the tables were turned, he'd probably spill it all.
Yep.
That was just live thought processing, inner dialogue.
Yeah.
Inner dialogue with Haley and thoughts, the
Thoughts
more you
with
know with
Haley.
Jackie. Sorry.
Do what they're doing.
You're good.
Like, I don't know, to make it for himself be okay.
Mm-hmm.
He
has
broke
said
my
that.
brain
He has
that
said
day.
that before. That
Telling
like
you.
you said, that he put his foot down and said, "Don't bring any of this here. This is I run this house."
Huh?
I said, "I love how disgusted you already were. Like you didn't know but so much about this, but you were on point with a
I
lot of
know.
stuff too. But you can just watch how grossed out and disgusted you were." And a lot of people, talk junk. Oh, the kids, people that say this about the kids. We're parents. We can't help but to be like, what about the children that were involved? So a lot of this and a lot of your anger and a lot of like the light bulbs that start to flicker that I can see while you're processing all this centered around his reaction to this part of the search warrant with children. So, I mean, how can you avoid that? Because in this entire story, the kids are always an afterthought. It's always like, and until he found out the stuff about the hair follicle, they were sort of tucked away again where that wasn't discussed. It was just about,
Yep. Yeah.
When
I mean, yeah, that's why I keep saying like this day broke my brain. It did.
Yeah.
It did. Because I was like, I don't understand. Like, I couldn't understand how a person could act like that. I don't know. Like,
well, when you
live
saw
on
this,
stream.
when you saw this for the first time, did you get the vibe or the feeling that he was acting, that it was not sincere, that it was not a genuine like reaction? Or do you even remember?
I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, oh my God, it really got to him. That's what I thought. I thought it was actually genuine. I really did think it was genuine. But as time has gone on, and especially this part where he's like, hold up. You guys just need to see my face while I read this.
Right.
That I'm like, motherfucker. Seriously?
But you know what? I think there, at least for a little bit, that was the same, like what you just said is the reaction that he banked on to hook new viewers. For people that didn't know who Aaron was, they turn it on and they're like, oh my gosh. And now he's really feeling guilty.
And I was new. And I was that person, that new viewer. I've never really watched his show at all, except for when we started talking about this. So I watched Monday and then Tuesday. So this is like the second show I had ever watched, except for him being on other people's shows. Right. So for me, seeing this, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe all the stuff that he's gone through. But then at the same time, I was like, he's acting like it's something that he has processed with a therapist over a year's time, if you're talking in the way that you are about it. So I was really confused at like what was going on. And then that morning when he was reading the application for the search warrant, I at first was like, oh my God, he finally got, like, it's really getting to him. And then as the stream went on, I was like, he tried to hoodwink me. He tried to hoodwink me.
I wonder how many people that had that exact same thought process watching this, how long it took them over time. Because like I just said, he didn't really bring up the kids that much anymore, except for when the hair follicle thing came out. Like if you think before then and after then, the kids aren't often brought up. And when they are, it's to be used as a weapon. Like I see my kids all the time and, Nick got his kids taken away. And you know what I mean? Like it's never this where we're like your heartstrings are being pulled because you're like, oh, as a father, whatever, he's repenting. He feels bad about this. He never really brings that up again. So I
No.
wonder how many people were watching it had the same sort of reaction that you have had. Like how long it took them to be like, this dude's full of shit. Like, is there anybody else that's still around that genuinely like feels sincerely bad for him?
I don't know. I mean, I'm probably, but
That's the worst part.
yeah.
You know, and then there's the people that are like, but he got out just in time and he's repented and he's, you know, he laid it all out and he admitted all the things he did wrong and you got to give him respect for that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't.
Mm-mm.
Like the fact that Nick is not coming out and saying all that doesn't mean that he doesn't feel that way, that he knows he screwed up and he knows, his children were involved and shouldn't have been and things like that. He can't really say much because he's got charges pending against him. Aaron
Right.
is not a saint because he came out of it nose clean just in the nick of time and has come on here and shared all this, embarrassing info or whatever, said, hey, I'm a cuck. He said it a couple times this morning. He says it almost every show. I'm a cuck. Yeah, I got cucked out. Like self-deprecation for him is the same thing as like boosting himself up. It's the same
Right.
thing because he's insane. But no, it's interesting to think about like how some people take that excuse as him coming out early
Mm-hmm.
and being self-deprecating, as that being the hero side of it. He's a better person because he did A, B, C, and D. I don't know, that part of it really aggravates me because it's like, that
'Cause he could.
doesn't right. Well, I know, yes, but that does not remove him from all, the everything that happened and his part in all of it. And I don't
Yeah.
understand how people can look at that and be like, well, he's a better person than Nick because obviously he came out and said this, that, and this, that. I'm like, was he when he wasn't calling April's family? That was his wife at the time. Was he when he was lying to all his friends and family about,
Mhm.
what was going on or telling little, bits and pieces, lying to his audience about April being upstairs? Like, was he really the better person when he's telling you that he was fixing food for the Rekieta kids? Well, his children were, I don't know, like, was he the better person when he was like in that moment saying, I knew that, 4 to a bed, we shouldn't have been doing that, but somebody had to get up and feed the kids. And was he a better person then? Like, to me, they're like this, if anything, because all of the things that were happening at Nick's house, he's told us were happening at his house. The only
Mhm.
difference is that they ran in on Nick. That's it, because
Yeah.
they could have just as easily shown up over at Aaron's house and maybe there wouldn't be that much weight, but who knows what they would have found. And then what would we say? Oh, Aaron's the good
Right.
guy because, no, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
go on a rant
Well,
about that, but
no.
that aggravates me. And when people are like, oh,
And
he's such a better person.
this was the first, I think this was the first time too where he had explicitly said about him being the sober one a lot of the times.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Yeah.
like, that does not make you look any better. It makes you
That's
look
what I mean.
worse.
Yeah. If you were the only one out of the 4 that had like a sober enough mind to know that you shouldn't be around the kids and this shouldn't be happening, blah, 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 then why did you stay in it?
Right.
Like that is worse because that says that you had a conscious enough mind to right and wrong and reason with what was going on, but that wasn't enough for you to get out. Like you mentioned earlier, that wasn't enough for you to
Mhm.
get out. The kids were not enough. It was when
Nope.
everybody didn't want to mess with you anymore because you're a nerd and a party pooper. You're a
Party
drag
pooper,
man.
corner. You're such a drag. You're such a square, man. Such a square. An L7 weenie.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to do it. Weenie head. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to play with you, Aaron.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, sorry.
All right. Let's watch this fool.
Yes. Differently. He's even made the comment of something like, if I were, if this was Aaron Rekieta's house, I would run a different way. And yes, I said that right. That's how he said it. If he were in Nick's place, basically was his point. But he also described lots of times when he was like, we all sleep 4 to a bed, and there were lots of times when the children knocked on the door
I
because
swear
they were
I haven't
hungry
heard
or
this.
needed something. Can you imagine being anywhere between 6 and 16 years old, pick a number, of one of these children and going and knocking on your parents' door because you're hungry and you haven't seen them in X amount of hours, and this man who they said they called Mr. and Miss, Mr. Aaron and Miss April is what he said the kids Rekieta's kids referred to them as, knocking
Weird.
and Mr. Aaron coming out to, to feed them. He
With
says
the
he was like,
pancakes, like in his underwear, and you're like, who the F is this dude?
yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know how he made that right in his mind. The other three, okay, if he really wasn't like partaking to the degree that they were, then okay, we'll give him that.
Right.
But the other three, they're out of their minds, whatever. They're sleeping in until 2 p.m. or whatever's going on over there. But he had to know that these children not only were, not getting what they needed, but you got to know that this is not okay. And that what the
Right.
children were thinking. Like, did you not ever one time put yourself in their position to be like, I wonder what I would think if I was 8 years old and needed to talk to my parents and these two strange people are in their bed all the time?
Well, you make a great point, because I didn't even think of it like this until you said it. He said on multiple occasions he wasn't the one that was fucked up all the time. So all the
I'm starting to
responsibility
get a bit mad.
lays on his shoulders then, because you can't use that you were on drugs and fucked up. If you're saying that,
Yep,
you know what,
yep.
I only used it like a few times, I wasn't on these benders, then what were you doing?
Yep.
Were you just like so like, I don't know, head over heels in love, like a teenage schoolboy that you could only see what's going on in your little bubble, your love bubble between you and Kayla? Like,
Yes.
because you can't, so you don't have an excuse to not like say something to your friends and be like, hey, I think your kids need something, or like do something about it. That like takes it to a whole other thing, because he's been very like, no, listen, I only did coke 3 times, that's it.
Yep,
3, that's it.
that's it.
I've done Molly 6, that's it.
Yeah,
Out of
and
the
it's
6
like,
months that they had this like whirlwind polycule romance drug fueled sex party, I don't know.
yeah. Well, and it's like you have an excuse for their behavior and their detachment from responsibility to a degree, right? Well, I'm not saying it's right, but it's like, oh, okay, well, they're they're in the bed all messed up, whatever, staying up all hours of the night. But then you have him who has made it over and over and over saying, I was okay. I was the one handling business. I was the one making sure they didn't get anything. Then you have these child neglect charges that say nothing was being done. They weren't being fed. They weren't being clothed. They weren't taking baths. They weren't whatever these poor children said to adults and that's another thing. The fact that they had to go to someone outside of the home to air their grievances on the way that they were being treated. And who knows how it happened. Maybe, they obviously picked up on them wearing their clothes, the same clothes all the time, or they smelled, they said in the report. But, we don't know, but how much of the children, were they going and saying like, I don't see my parents anymore, or this is going on at my house. We don't know. They could have said, yeah, I'm seeing them run into the bathroom and the dad's like running around the house all, jacked up. And we don't know what they said, but the fact that they had to go to someone outside of the home and be like, something's not right here. And the other 4 adults, one of them saying that they were the responsible party for the most part during all of this stuff,
right?
Are oblivious. I'm sorry. And that's what I kept saying that in the chat too. I was being hateful this morning. I was like, you cared about one thing and one thing only. Like, let's call it for what it is. But man, all right, should we keep going? Well, let's get over this hill. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Another individual advised the reported
before he takes it down.
that Nicholas will walk out randomly during sermons at church and have noticed behavioral changes in him. I mean, he had a bullet, a small container of cocaine that sometimes I know he carried with him, brought it to my house. It was alleged Kayla looks anorexic.
Brought it to my house. He's told a story about how his 4-year-old daughter was sitting on the couch and either she found it or he noticed it next to her. I'm not sure. I cannot remember because like you said, I've watched so much footage the past few days.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
He said, yes, I remember. He said that he had noticed some type of blue, ready? He said I noticed some type of blue thing right next to my 4-year-old sitting on the couch. And I pulled it up and I was like, please be bubbles. Please be bubbles. And then he opened it up and it was cocaine. And it fell out of like Nick's pocket or something. And like in between the couch.
As far as what Aaron says is, how it got there. But that was like, as soon as he said that, I was like, okay, so every single time you said that you never put your children in harm's way, because he kept saying like, I told them no drugs and not to come in here. And I made a really big spectacle because he said that Nick would come over and bring a safe full of drugs, blah, blah, blah. And he had made a point to be like, don't bring that in my house. Maybe he did. Maybe he did try to put his foot down. But my thing is, you knew the situation for what it was. Why did you let them in the house with your children present? Because there is always that chance that you don't know. He even has said times where the Rekietas came into their house and threw out cocaine on like their kitchen counter and started doing lawns. And that Aaron said he went off on them because he was like, my kids live here. What the hell? You can't just have like cocaine crumbs all over the place. Like, point being, he knows that this is fully a possibility. Like, to me, that is endangerment of your children and knowingly endangering your children. Whether or not it happened, the possibility was there. So this like,
and and the thing is, and his reflection of that time, I think it's skewed on how he actually acted at that time. Because if like I said, with the amount of contrition that he has right now for, yes, is he saying I'm a piece of shit? Yes. Is he saying that I'm embarrassed? And should I have done more? Of course. But then you have to take in consideration and look at it. So then what was he actually doing at that time? You see him now and how he's talking, but like, what was he actually participating in if he was and if he wasn't participating in anything, why did he stay as long as he did in the situation?
And from
Isn't
what
that
I understand, sorry, go ahead.
No, because I was gonna say it's not because what you had this love for this other woman or because it made your wife happy. If you're having all this like, no, my kids, this, like, they brought it over and I told them, don't you dare bring this shit over my house, then it should have stopped then. There, you've been like, all right, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. You know, like it's just, I don't know if it's like an ego thing, like, oh, he was he getting boosts on his streams when he was doing streams at the Rekieta home? He kept saying, "Oh, I'm friends with the Rekietas," and like, could it be? I don't know. I'm just speculating, and I'm just throwing it out there for thought. But
well, he said a couple of times that he was just happy to have somebody that a fellow streamer in the area that they could go hang out with. That was supposedly how this started. Now, maybe that's so. That being said, this is not 2020, 2021 Rekieta Law, big YouTuber, #1 super chat guy of the year. This is bottom of the barrel, what's happened to Rekieta, all of his friends, all the people that he used to stream with, and all that. So I don't know if it was a combination of the two where he thought he could get some kind of clout and that Nick would come out of this. I don't think he knew how bad the situation was until they got into it. And I also don't think it was as bad for the Rekieta, specifically Nick, until April came along. I think it gave him a reason, you know what I mean? Like somebody to party with and hang out and sort of justify some of the partying.
Right. Like saying, well, if this person's doing it too, I guess it's okay that I'm doing it, you know, kind of feeding that toxic, like feeding off each other thing. And I even had put a note in here when we were reading something. I don't remember. Oh, I think it was the application for the search warrant that the church goers had said that there was a change from January until May of 2024. And I was like, well, that's very convenient because their polycule relationship started in December of 23. So it would make sense that toxic circle of, okay, well, if he's doing it, I'll do it, like on April's side, and him being like, oh, well, if she's still doing it, then I can do it, and that's cool too.
Wild,
you know.
And I know that Kayla,
trying to process
from what Aaron has said, and just from the charges and things like that, that she also participated in whenever they had cocaine and whatever else, Molly, ketamine, drink it, whatever was going on. But I've heard Aaron many times sort of break her off from the situation. Like, he doesn't talk very much about like her use. When he does, he said that it was like minimal and she would do it for a little while, but he's also made statements saying that like Kayla had come to him a couple times and been like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to try to get away from doing this. I don't want to do it as much. He said that there was a time when Nick and April, is how he put it, that they had run out of their stash. They needed to get more, and that Kayla had tried to say, let's stop, like let's let this be it, not go get any more. And that April and Nick wanted more. They ended up getting a really bad fight, Kayla and Nick, and that April and Nick would take off together to go pick up. Which I guess I can go ahead and say this now while it's on my mind, but that's always sort of been, you know, when I first heard that April got her charges dropped, I thought, okay, it's one of two things. Either she's going to turn state's evidence against the Rekietas and tell everything that she knows, all the, you know, what she's seen, yada, yada, or because we know for a fact that I say that, let me take that back. Aaron has told the audience that several times April would ride with Nick to go pick up. That means that April, at the very least, maybe she doesn't have the dealer's number, but she knows enough to point the cops in that direction. How do you get out of felony drug possession charges?
Right.
You tell them the dealer, right? So it's like, to me, it's got to be one of those two things. Other people have speculated, no, it's because, you know, they couldn't prove that she lived there. Okay, maybe. But then you've got the 2 credit cards on the bedside table, which means she was involved in some way, you know, but maybe it's something as simple as like, if they couldn't catch her in the act, they can't charge her. I don't know. But if they've got her in that car with Nick going to pick up, you know, there's a possibility that that's how she got out of her charges. I'm total speculation. Don't listen to me. I'm no, you know, pro, but I'm just trying to put the pieces together. And I think it's very interesting that she got out of there scot-free.
So look, she's still being charged with possession, correct?
Yes.
But not the 27, 28 grams. She had what, 0.02 or 0.2, I can't remember, grams of a white substance that they were going to test in her purse. If that's like the minimum of her charges, well, I mean, she could plead to that and probably walk out with a misdemeanor. I just think it's like all this other stuff with whether or not she lived there and whether or not, I don't know. I guess we're going back to when we discussed the different kinds of possession, because I would be curious to know, like, if she's a visitor or if she lives there, is she also held responsible for the big weight of from, you know, Nick and Kayla's charges? I guess my bigger question is she being charged with that huge amount, or is she being charged with what they found in her purse?
I think it's what was found. I'll look, because we can find out.
Like the full amount, right?
Right. It would. I don't think that she's being. Oh Lord. I don't think she's being charged with the full amount at all because I think her felony is a lesser one. I don't know. I could be talking out of my tuchus right now. Hold on.
Because if she's not like a known resident there and gets mail there or whatever, then I think she would only be able to be held accountable for what was on her person or her purse. I don't know.
Well, her felony is a 5th degree possession of a scheduled 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it's like not a small amount of marijuana felony. So it's a 5th degree controlled substance sale or possession felony. And let me look this up.
Because unless they can prove like for sure that she lived there, then the only thing they can charge her with, I think, right? But see, I don't know because there's those different possession charges in Minnesota, so maybe not. Maybe they can just be like, we think she was living there. We're charging her with the same amount that we're charging Nick and Kayla.
I don't think she's not because theirs is a 2nd degree and hers is a 5th degree. So hers is a lesser. So.
And I wonder if it's
in her purse.
But I wonder if it's a felony charge then because of the guns or because if it's like a tiny, tiny, like personal amount, or maybe that's just how Minnesota does it. They just don't have a tolerance at all. I don't know.
I have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to move this forward to when he's speaking again.
No.
And then I'll be right. Because okay, so this is actually getting to a point where he's talking about Kayla. And talking about how like he and her would celebrate when she would get over 100 pounds and stuff like that because she's so skinny and like they need her to eat. I don't know. That was the only time I ever heard about this. It was never talked about again, and I don't even know what it's about. So I'm gonna play this, but I will be right back. Is that cool with you?
Yep. No, absolutely not. Of course.
What? Oh.
No, I said no. I'm just messing with you. It's the holidays and we have the kids home, so there's a lot going on. Y'all have to bear with us breaking off. But yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, but I just thought this was actually really interesting. And
like, why even mention that? Why even bring that part up?
Well, they were at the part, I think he was of the application of the search warrant where they're talking about how how their physical appearance was like they had lost a lot of weight. From the Ozempic because it's so hot right now.
It is. Everybody's on it.
So all right, here we go.
Okay. She got out of there scot-free.
Yeah.
So. Okay, yeah, let's finish this real quick. And
one of the things I always encouraged Kayla was the gaining weight thing. And I would celebrate with her when she got over 100 pounds. I would say, hey, that's great. I said, let's go to one. She's only 5'2". So like I dated someone who was 5'2" before. And like anything over 100 is probably fine. Because
but I'm a fat fuck. So I hear someone like almost 100 pounds. I'm like, God, if only.
Well, when I met her, she was at like 97 or something like that. And like I would celebrate with her. She'd step on the scale. I'd go in there with her. I'd try to be a support system. I'd say, hey, Kayla, what do you say we get to like 105, 110? And she's like, 102. I don't want. I go, okay, you know what? Fine. As long as we're over 100, that's great. And she would get over 100, and I would be so happy, and that would be so great. And because again, I dated someone who was very short. Being over 100 pounds was, all right. And Kayla looks anorexic, and Nicholas has lost a substantial amount of weight recently. All true. One individual described Nicholas of having injection or track marks on his arms.
He makes it sound like
that. I can't believe I didn't.
Kayla and his relationship was very, very
track marks are
And I'm not
It's
so
a
sure
shame
that it
that's-
was.
Because no,
He's always
offense,
like
if you're
talking to
poking
her about
veins,
like,
there's no
let's
way
see
you're
if
not
we
gonna
can
have bruises.
get
I get those
you
all
know,
the time,
over
like,
100
from my
pounds.
treatments and stuff. To
Like,
the point where
let's,
when I go
I
to
don't
the
know. Some of
ER,
his comments
I've
about how
literally, a
close
friend of
they
mine, I went to the ER
supposedly
once. A
were
friend of mine took
weird.
me in from a comedy show when I slipped and fell, and the nurse literally pulled him aside and like, we noticed a lot of injection site marks and track marks in his veins. Does he have a history of illegal drug use? And my friend would go, no, he has a medical condition. Those are from IVs and treatments. So yeah, those things tend to stick out. I don't know. Maybe he's just scratching. Like, I don't know.
I thought maybe
I don't know what withdrawal on that stuff is like.
When I saw the arrest report, I assumed he was scratching his arm. I would see him in his hands would shake a lot. I knew that. But injection or track marks. And let me also go on record. I never saw him shoot anything.
Yeah.
I never saw Nick.
He also never saw child neglect. Just putting it out there.
I saw him do coke. You know, I saw him do Molly. I never saw him inject anything. So that.
And that may be true.
The
don't know.
reporter
Right.
reiterated concerns for possible neglect and or controlled substance use within the home. Your detective started to review the Rekieta and Imholte social media blogs. The blogs are commonly related to legal issues and high-profile trials, as Nicholas is a licensed attorney. Nicholas
be
is
right
known
back
to
for a
drink
sec.
alcoholic beverages excessively on these video blogs. I immediately noted that Nicholas's appearance in recent months has changed. In videos from January 2024 compared to May 2024, Nicholas appears to have lost weight, appears tired, and overall appears strung out, common with controlled substance users. All right, Nick, Kayla, April, are you reading this? This is what we did. Fucking own it.
Let me say this
I
because this
can't.
sort of ticked me off. The last couple of days when he has been addressing this, which has been nonstop since it happened, for the reasons I stated earlier, but over and over again, he said things like, I just want them to admit to their faults. I just want them to admit that they were guilty. And,
He
you know,
still
a
says
couple
that
of
to this
things.
day.
That would be absolutely idiotic for people
that
who
freeze
have pending
frame.
charges and are facing this kind of sentence.
That face.
That's stupid, number one. Number two, I don't, you know, in the big scheme of things, their admittance to any of this is between them and God. Do they owe an answer to the public? Maybe. Do they owe an answer to their children and their family? Absolutely. Do they owe an answer and an admission of guilt to Aaron? No. But you will hear him hammer this over and over and over and over. He's done it for days now, and he does it several times in this stream. I just want you guys to admit to guilt. Just admit to being guilty. We did this. Why can't you admit to it? In the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? And why would they put themselves in that kind of a position? Oh,
Right. Oh, okay. So
Kayla.
in this, you feel my 2-year-old in and out. Oh,
oh,
his little voice is so cute.
I know.
But you'll hear him in and out.
Hey, baby. All right, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I had
play.
okay. For those, you might hear my baby in the background. He said, Mama, I'm up for my nap. And I said, okay, I'll get you.
So real quick, Voice of the People says, yes, it is. If they admitted while court is happening, even publicly, it would be damning.
Well,
That's-
and here's the thing, though, too, because they use in court all of his stuff that he's just been talking about, admitting to for the past 5 days.
Yes. And honestly, I wouldn't be upset if it happened because I think, like I said before, you know, he's been the martyr in all of this, but in talking as much as he has and doing this, like, you know, semi-media tour, you know, discussing all of the details. And I mean, obviously we're not going to have time to go over it today, but he went on Kino Casino and spoke for 5 hours about the sexual side of things that were going on. You know, with all of this going on, he has implicated himself over and over. And he's actually like given so much detail that there, you know, you could count the specific times that he's admitted to either being, you know, having knowledge of, being involved in, or, you know, complicit in, I guess, over and over. And that's like when he was saying earlier today, like, charge me, go ahead, you know, I deserve it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, well, dude, you know, we know that the detective is reviewing the social media stuff. We know that he's watching. So keep talking because you're.
That was a weird thing when he would continuously say, charge me, blah, 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 blah.
Do you know
And
who
you're
says
like, well,
that?
A guilty person.
Yeah, and people that know they're not going to be charged. Do you remember
Right.
whenever they like hit April up with the charges again, how he said, well, they're watching this stuff, they're seeing the social media, and they know that you're still over there. That's why they charged you. And I always thought that's
Right.
like, what? But if he uses
Yeah.
that same logic on himself, like you would not be out here going, charge me, unless you're a paid informant and you know that that's not going to happen because you're feeding them so much information to build a case. I don't know. I'm a conspiracy theorist when it comes to that. Aaron's a narc. Aaron is a snitch.
Yeah.
I can't.
Well, my question has always been for a very long time, though, too, is that if he could be charged, what would it be? I mean,
what about like accessory to the child neglect stuff?
Right.
Like
if you
they can't.
I don't know. and
Yeah,
didn't
because
say
they
anything.
you can't like charging someone with possession is one thing. We can't prove that he possessed it in it at any point. So it's
Right.
not use. So the whole drug stuff is sort of, off to the side. So if he were to at any point, I would think something where it's like, no, you've admitted over and over and over again that you were over there 5 days a week, that you spent the night, 4 to a bed, whatever. So if let's say that the child neglect or endangerment stuff was going to stick, I think that they would be able to charge him for that. The fact that he was going, charge me over and over, like, to me, that
Yeah.
says nobody would say that and mean it. They would only say it if they knew that that was not, that was out of bounds and
Not
it
gonna
would
happen.
not happen. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. That makes sense.
It is really wild going back and seeing this and stuff. And this is before MN public records and us being able to see, like, I mean, we shouldn't have. I had thought about that for a while now. I was just like, maybe we shouldn't have read those things, but it was out there.
Once it's in the public domain, it's in the public domain. We
Right.
blurred out names and addresses and stuff. We were as careful as we could be, but once it's in the public domain, it's like any and everybody
Right.
can. So,
But it's it's also funny to watch back too, because it's just like from this show, I had never thought that we would be here where we are today, between seeing what happened at the child court, the revenge porn stuff, the more about the girlfriend grotto, and Nick and April going off on Twitter, Nick doing all his weird local streams, and then them ghosting everybody, and then it's like, what? It's just wild.
the HRO too, that wasn't in play yet.
Oh, yep. Yes. Lord. I think you even mentioned, I'm trying to move my chair. I can't. Okay. But I think you even mentioned it in here that he probably left because of stuff that was going on with his ex-wife, because she had the HRO against April at the time, that April wasn't
Right.
allowed to drive the kids around and stuff.
Yep. So he could capitulate and do all the things he needed to do to make Ashley happy so that he wouldn't lose his children. At the same time, he already knows April's gone. I mean, April basically left in December. She checked out of the marriage. So for him, it was like, okay, well, I'm not trying to upset Ashley to the point where, I don't have custody at all or get to see my children. So
Right.
this is a good time for me to back out.
So okay, all right, he starts talking, and this is him yelling, "We could have done something.
Admit guilt, repent, get on the road to perdition, get on the road to salvation. It starts with admitting what we did. This was unholy. This was evil. This was bad. We all fucked up really, really
Is he
bad.
looking at himself in the monitor
Your
while he's
kids
doing
were
his
complaining
diatribe?
to people at church.
Yes.
We
Okay.
fucked up. We
That's where
failed
that one
them.
is.
Oh my
I've
God.
abandoned my boy.
I've abandoned my boy. God damn it. You had to make a fucking joke. Thank you.
Well, I mean, is this not a comedy show? I've been hitting on it.
I was a part of this.
I know.
I'm not their dad. I get that. I was a part of this. I could have done something. I didn't. And I'll tell you why, Nick, in the time in January, it's no secret, it's no mystery, it's not an accident that from January to May he lost a shitload of weight and was inebriated more often. He had someone to do the fucking drugs with and hang out with them. He and April would hang out. She'd sit down there during that show. They'd come up during breaks. Sometimes they would do drugs. I saw it myself. He had someone to do it with. April, honey, sweetie. She always says, if you've ever loved me, why don't you stop talking about this? There's an old
What am
April,
I
you're a farm
eating?
girl. There's an
I'm
old
over there
saying,
eating. Oh, what do I
"You can't
have?
stop a
Rice
rooster from
cakes.
crowing once the sun's come up.
Oh.
April, the sun's up. Nick, the sun's up. We have to sing about this. This is what we
I don't
did.
normally
This is
eat.
unholy. This is
Oh, damn it.
bad. This is something we have to atone for. Nick, your appearance changed because you found
I
a
know.
drug buddy. And you guys fucking ran it into the ground. And your kids didn't get their clothes changed. and they weren't fed enough food. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I was a fucking hero because I cook a can of SpaghettiOs every once in a while or I'd go grocery shopping. I didn't do enough, clearly.
Oh God,
Guys,
that's so
fucking
fake.
admit it. I will. But I don't want to look like I'm fucking getting on a cross and being holier than thou, but I'll own up to it. I failed.
But do you know how easy it is to own up to it if you're not facing charges?
Right.
Of course he can do that. Of course that's like, I don't know, him trying to pressure, like, do you think to keep him and April out of trouble, Aaron is trying to bait a reaction admission from Nick? Maybe, but I mean, Nick has made some really bad decisions, but I can't see him, coming out and responding to any of this. It's easy for Aaron to be like, yeah, I did all this wrong because he's not being charged with anything. I'd also like to add, and that's what we were looking at before I started this video, was the timeline. Like how many times Aaron told them ahead of time, like, you got to get out of the house. You got to get out of the house.
Right.
And he's the only one unscathed. He just so happened to get out right before the ball started rolling. I don't know, man. It's a weird
I don't know.
look.
I mean, it could, well, I mean, it pains me to do this, but let me give him the benefit of the doubt of the situation. Like, no, Jack, maybe it did get to a point where he's like, I just can't anymore. Like, I'm tired. I got my morning show. I can't perform the way in which I need to get my $300 a show. Because it's just me and it's all about me. So I'm me. I need to get out. I don't know. I mean, but I mean, because there was an obvious difference between January and now, like in appearance and stuff. And if it was such a toxic environment, he could have wanted to stay as long as possible. I mean, his wife was a part of it and everything. And then, could have gotten to a point where like everything was broken. His relationship with his wife was broken. His relationship with Nick was broken. And ipso facto, his relationship with Kayla was broken. So then he had no one in there.
That's true. Isn't it interesting though that he waited until the day before the arrest to tell Kiki about what was going on? There's just some of the timing stuff I cannot ignore. And when I hear him saying this back, I'm like,
yeah. No. I'm with you. For sure.
I can't stand to see him like looking back at this and watching his fake emotional outrage and like just I can't believe I did this and did it. It's like it doesn't even come across as sincere. And the bigger point to me is like, okay, if you knew all this was going on, why did you like he the way he makes it sound is that he reasoned that at the time, oh, I know we shouldn't have been doing this, blah blah blah. Well, because I'm listening to what you said and you're like, well, maybe he just felt like his wife was in this and they were in it together. But I know that you have heard at some point, it's just a rumor, but that Kayla had cheated on Nick at some point over the last couple of years. And that this was a way to open that door because he apparently, do you remember the worst day when Nick said it was like the worst day of his life? People are speculating that that's when he found out that she had been cheating on him with whoever. And
like
so
Star Trek guy or something.
Yes. So when this started up, it was like a way for Nick to sort of explore all that and not so much get her back, but I'm sure that if this is true, there was a lot of resentment. So that would make sense to me as far as like the attachment with April.
Right.
And it would make a lot of sense as to why Kayla was always in the bedroom or, while April was downstairs and Kayla wasn't. Like, I don't know. I try to think of like what that dynamic would be like if that's true, because there would be so much resentment built up on Kayla's part. Like, what are you going to do? You can't say no because, you're guilty and you were the one in the wrong, but then they completely open up the marriage and Nick finally gets a little piece of something else. I don't know. I just always thought that was that would definitely explain some things as far as the relationship and why Kayla is never mentioned. Kayla is always like on the outskirts of all the stories. And
yeah,
I don't know, just throwing that out there because I forget about that sometimes.
Yeah, because the worst day ever was like what, July of 2023, and then a few months later they meet Aaron and April, and Aaron's like, "Yeah, hun, let's be swingers," and she's like, "Okay."
How many times have you and I talked about how like we felt as if Kayla was not really trapped, but like felt like she had to do this, or that that would make sense as to why, or would be on that same page as to like, why she didn't put her foot down. She was maybe she had issues with it behind the scenes, but she knew she didn't have a position to say anything about it because she had been in the wrong originally. I don't know. Like I said, this is a complete theory, but just doing some, what is it? Thought
exercises.
Yes. But anyway.
No, that's actually definitely something to noodle around for sure.
Because when you hear Aaron talking about it, Kayla's like almost never in part of the story. And if she is, like just a minute ago when he was saying that April was down there while, Nick was streaming and always said that was her place to be doing that. Like, okay, if that's so, where is Kayla? Is she sitting up in her room and like.
Or is it that she was nicer to him and the other two hurt his feelings more than she did? He is a vengeful, spiteful dude.
Yeah.
So maybe they hurt his feelings more than Kayla did.
I'm sure. I mean, he did get cucked out.
Yeah. Mr. Castillo girl.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I had to put that out there. Though. I know. Well, I had to put that out there because it was a theory I'd seen just a couple weeks ago. And it would make sense as to why some of this was handled the way it was, as far as like Kayla not being in the picture much, or
Yeah.
And like I said, I cannot confirm any of that. It was just something that I read that I thought,
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't. I once everyone can talk, it'll be. I don't know. It's gonna be like, what was it before April and Nick went on their Twitter rampage? You could feel like something was about to happen. Remember me telling you? I was like, I feel like we're at the apex of something. Like something's gonna burst, and I think we're kind of on the downside of this roller coaster, and it's gonna get wild here in a bit, for sure. Especially once everything kind of like cases are done, unless there's like some type of, I don't know where there would be like some type of NDA or like you couldn't do anything or say anything, or an HRO or whatever, unless Aaron would file one against Nick and stuff and be like, he can't say my name or whatever. Could you imagine if, holy shit. Okay. This scenario just went through my brain. What if?
Hold on.
Okay. Okay. What if? So now that you have this whole thing that's going on where Aaron thinks that Nick has his internet.
Yes. Right.
Internet. Or like into his Google account and everything like that. So now what if Aaron could actually use that and kind of almost like that threat and kind of like that antagonization as a way to get himself and HRO a protective order against Nick, and him and Nick not being able to say Aaron's name, or else he would have to have like some type of like punishment or something for it. Just
I've
as
had that
has happened to Aaron. Yeah.
I've had that thought because when I thought about like, all right, if this is true, like Nick would had to have weighed the options out, because if it's something like that, yeah, obviously like the state would shut that down. Don't speak to him. Don't say his name. You can't bring him up. Like you really screwed up. And I kept thinking, why? And I feel like I said this at one point, the timing of that seems way wrong. Like why, if you were going to come out and be like, well, by the way, I've got all of this access, you would not do it before all of this was settled. Like even like if you did it later on, you could do it later on after you spilled the beans and said all the things you felt like you needed to clear up about what Aaron had been saying. But why would you? That's like shooting yourself in the foot. Like he's got to know. He's got to know that if any of it's true, he's got to know that would screw him over, and he would never be able to say anything.
Did we just give someone ideas?
No, he does watch the show, so
no. But you would think, honestly, if you wanted to protect yourself, it wouldn't be a bad thing. It wouldn't be a bad plan.
No, because I think,
and he can use all the stuff that he said on like this little piggy on Dick's show, all that other stuff as like evidence. Here you guys go.
That's exactly what I was
talking about me. Yeah.
It wouldn't be a hard case to make. No, you're fine.
No, it wouldn't.
Because
It wouldn't be.
that's why I'm like, my brain wants to be like, Nick's smarter than that. And then I'm like, I've seen him do so many different things, even the things we know for sure are for real, not put the Google stuff aside. But like the things we're like, no, we saw him in the chat saying this or that. It's like, why are you doing this? Just wait. I know it's hard. I know it's got to be ridiculously difficult to listen to Aaron go around and say all the things that he's been saying. But that day will come. And if you can wait to do a good stream and get back on your feet with the, that being your business, then you can wait. Just wait, man.
Put it
So
in
I
your
don't know.
journal. Put it in your journal.
We offer one on our website,
We do.
our merch store.
If you go to our merch store, you can purchase yourself a very nice, pretty antisocial journal to put all your thoughts and feelings in.
Can we find a P.O. box for him and just mail him one?
Oh,
One of ours.
We should.
Dead serious.
We'll mail him 3.
He
One
would
for
probably
him,
love
one for
it.
Kayla, one for April.
Oh gosh. I think he would find that humorous and he would giggle.
I think so too. And I was working on a Dear Diary kind of like a scene that we could like put across, like if we would read any of his tweets, but it's in the works still.
He's kind of shut down.
I know. Well, he hasn't done anything on Twitter since end of November. Like an actual post from himself. Like he's responded to a few things, but nothing.
And it's been a while with the locals posts too.
Yeah.
About the same time.
It's the weird ebb and flows of things. Yeah, I don't know.
We'll get through this, but I have one more question while it's on my mind. I know you've heard this about Aaron saying that an insider had reached out to him and said that basically Nick was put to an ultimatum, either take April or you can have the trad life with Kayla, but not both. And that Nick had basically said, I don't want April. That's, whatever. I'm going to do the right thing and be with my family. And then on top of that, the fact that there's been some offers put in on the girlfriend grotto. How much of that do you think is legit, number one? And number two, if you had to take a stab at who this insider was, if this even happened, to talk to Aaron, who do you think it is?
Well, at first I thought it was Kiki, because that's who I thought. But he kept saying he, so I don't know. How about you?
I think it might be Dan.
Dan the man?
Dan the man, Kayla's stepfather, because he said that he always loved Dan and he had a good relationship with Dan. And he also has said a couple times that Dan messaged him on Facebook Messenger. Remember where he'd be like, I got a message today from Dan, blah, blah, blah. Like if anybody was going to be that close to the marriage to where they knew some of the moves that Nick was making, especially if there was an ultimatum given out by Kayla, hey, you can have this or you can have that, one or the other, make a decision. It makes sense to me that it could be Dan. That being said, I saw a thumbnail that was Camelot saying that he had just talked to Nick and he had a bunch of stuff he wanted to say. And I can't watch Camelot and I did not click it. So maybe that, but I just don't see Camelot and Aaron being homies to where Camelot's going to I think it's Dan.
You think it's Dan? Well, I mean, Dan has had some posts on the Book of Face talking about Kayla and stuff. So.
Yeah. Like who else would be that close to them to where they would even know to say it? And I kind of thought, well, maybe Kayla's sister, because we know she was on a rampage as far as like trying to help get this ball rolling. We know that she was one of the 4, but I can't see her because of that being that close to the family, at least not to Nick. Maybe she's made up with Kayla and but he said it was a dude. He kept saying he.
Right. Sometimes I go back and forth and wondering, like, is Nick really like this big mastermind, like evil demon that everyone seems to like be putting him out to be? Like, is he actually this cult leader that people are saying? And he's got these women in his web, in his sticky situation. Like, I don't know.
No, I think if anything, it's because at least when this began, it was about like the security, his assets, he's a trust fund baby. His parents and grandparents had millions of money, enough to give like 17 million to a hospital, and other philanthropy that they were doing. To me, it's, and not to say he's not a cool guy or whatever, and he's not like great to hang out with, but I don't know, man. I wish I knew. I wish more people were talking so we weren't here just like.
I know. Well, how about this? What if we're all just being hoodwinked and Nick is really the cuck and it's April and Kayla that have the relationship?
That's how this all began, right? According to Aaron,
Yep.
it was with a kiss and a makeout session.
So much has happened.
I know.
Oh my goodness. All right. You guys could go back and watch this whole thing too. So help us out with the view count with the view count on this. So back here, what if it's one thing that we've said from the beginning of the show, when we've been talking about this whole situation, that everybody in this situation sucks. Sucks. And here's the first time we said it.
Your house doing God knows what with their mother.
Oh God.
And their father with your wife or whatever. It's just horrible. Oh my God, my heart is breaking. I honestly have had tears well up in my eyes a few times on here because I was just like, I can't with like you have said on multiple occasions, and I've said this to you too. His language about how he left, like, oh, I left, I got out. Like from where? Like, and that's why in my head, I'm like, oh, well, then they must have been staying with them like almost full time. And he even talks about how they used to stay at their house at least like 3 to 5 nights a week. And you're telling like, oh, because you had a morning show, you didn't really realize what was going on with the kids.
Yeah, it's not. It's so gross. All of it is so gross. And
it is, every single person, and there is no redeeming quality for any single person in this situation. No. So if people are just like, oh, well, you're not talking about like, the Rekietas and all their stuff. No, every single person in this situation, awful.
It is
awful.
And the Rekieta kids, from my understanding, were in like a homeschool program that was sort of put on with the church. And I'm assuming from just what I've gathered that Kayla was, one of the teachers helping with the homeschooling program. And at one point, Nick was involved in that program. I don't know what he taught or if it was like other children or what, but that was good.
Sometimes in like homeschool communities and stuff, what they'll do is they'll rotate parents and lessons and stuff that they teach. So each parent, it's like almost like it's a communal learning type of thing. So each parent has an obligation or something to teach the kids at least something, whether it's once a week, once a month, something like that.
Well, at one point, I know that Nick had been thrown out of that program due to some of their concerns. And I don't know how long ago that was, but that really makes me wonder, because while all of this is going on and the children are running around and not being fed and not whatever, the clothes aren't being washed and all of that, what about their school? Like, what about their actual education? What, I don't know. There's obviously a lot of questions, but that bothers me too. Because I would assume they had to be reporting like their grades and whatever else in somewhere. I wonder how long that was neglected and it was just put off to the side, because that could have been one of the 4 people that they said went to the preacher. Maybe it was someone involved in the education, the homeschooling program. It was like, I haven't, none of these kids have been doing any work. Like, what are they doing? What are literally, what are the children doing?
Yeah.
You're
like, I know. I did that a lot at the beginning of this because I was just like, it's because it's not normal. It's not a normal thing. And not just that, it's not just some article that you read, like you read in online or something like that.
Right.
Like, it's just all the little details, not just from the reports though, but also from this other person who was a part of this whole situation. And just that person themselves is a whole other dynamic of things that is just a mind fuck for like a lack of better terms, because you're trying, if you're trying to figure out like what's going on and what's true and what's not, and you have this other person where it's just like the reliability scale isn't isn't the best in balance. You're just like trying to figure it all out, and you can't.
Well, I feel like drugs would have to be involved to tolerate Aaron for that long and in that close of proximity.
Yeah.
they probably, that's why April was like, I need to get more.
Right.
According to Aaron. Yeah, I mean, how could you tolerate him for that long? Especially, I just need to know what really happened. I wish they could all just come out and be like, okay, no, that didn't happen. That's wrong. And really, we shouldn't know any of it at all. Like, that's the ideal situation, is that we have no idea any of this, the actual sexual stuff. And we should not be pondering their relationships and how that was handled. I just think, man, poor kids, dude.
I know. And it's horrible too, because it's just like, it's this train wreck that you just can't stop looking at it. You can't, because something new is happening all the time.
Yep. And I was so hoping that this would be the end of the road, at least legally, in this situation for Nick this past week, because I was obviously to get it over with, but also so he could clear the air on some things. And I don't know. I hate that it's been pushed off again, but we'll see. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of people seem to believe that's because the plea deal has already been accepted, and then it's just the formality of going back and having the process play out in court for January. But a lot of people are saying that he's probably already agreed to something, and this is just them getting all their paperwork and everything in order to present to the court, and this is what we're going to do. Here's the formal plea, and then start whatever comes from that. But
we'll see. What do you think the percentage is of him actually like pleading guilty and not going to trial to actually going to a trial?
70-30.
70-30?
I think he's come to terms with it, and he knows at this point, like, the best way to get this done and over with, the quickest, and not draw it out, is to just take his licks and start to move on with his life. I think because he always talks about the government, like, having you in their grasp, and how you can't do anything. They're like all over you. They're calling, they're coming by. They're like I think he's ready to like, okay, let me just, pay for my crimes and my sins, and then like I just want to get back to my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But then there's the part with his ego where I'm like, nah, he wants to go and like get all this stuff into evidence and on the record and throw everything he can at Aaron. And so I don't know.
I know.
What do you think?
I know. Well, I lean more towards him doing a plea. Like, I would say 90-10, to honestly.
Really?
Yes, because I take in consideration just like not only like tweets that he's had, like some of his dear diaries, right? And but also what he was saying on Dick's show a few weeks ago. Basically talking about him getting himself ready to not be able to drink alcohol for years, as that being part of like a probation type of thing. So that's why I
keep that little 20 to 30% open, just because I feel like I think he teeters on it. I think part of him still really wants to fight it till the end, and I mean, he's a lawyer, so this is like supposed to be his arena, and he wants to get in there and like show out. But I think you're probably right. I feel like he's already known what his decision was going to be for a long time, for what you just said, for the reasons, like some of the way that he's worded some things sounds like he's come to terms with everything and is ready to move on. So,
well, but also to your point, it depends on how he woke up that day. Is he going to choose violence or not?
Right.
He's like, I woke up and chose violence. So
we're talking impulse control here. So it's like, I got to leave a little window there, but I don't know.
No, because that's true though. Oh man, it'll be It'll be something to see for sure. So this is just a little bit more of Aaron, but then we're also we go and we watch a little snippet of the now, I would say, infamous video of Nick. I haven't seen it in a long time. So, well, I saw it yesterday. You haven't probably seen it in a long time. So
insinuated controlled substance use and also
Hang on. I think I want to show that real quick. I think I want to show that video real quick because it's like 30 seconds because we have referenced it a few times. And if you haven't seen it already, you need to see it. So let me do that real quick. It's 31 seconds.
All right.
Here we go.
all right, there.
Oh boy. Oh, this one.
Nick.
Even look at my face before it.
It's so sad.
It is. You're going to cry.
I'm making the same face.
Why is my camera still on?
Okay, so I just had to show that for anybody that hasn't already seen it. That's what they keep referencing for the May 20th video that's in the police report, and that he's
It
going
makes me
off about.
physically ill.
Yeah, it's
Like,
gross.
it's gross, and it's just like it's sad. It's just sad. It's all sad.
I
just
keep
saying it.
laughing
That's
because
all
I'm
it is.
like,
It's
I
just
don't
sad.
even know how
And
to like
infuriating at the same time.
emotionally like my
Process
emotional
that.
intelligence is like very juvenile apparently because I can't verbalize how I'm actually feeling in there. So I'm just like, wow. Because it's sad. It's like, it's awful to see anybody like that. Ugh.
It is, and I feel like that's something that's been lost on a lot of people too. Like at the end of the day, all of the charges and all of the talk and the chatter and so forth, we're still talking about someone who has an addiction issue, whether it's with that, and he's over that part of his life, whatever, the alcohol, like it's a symptom, you know what I mean? There's other stuff going on there. And I think no matter what they did criminally wrong, like you have to remember the fact that people don't normally get into addiction issues unless there's something already broken in them that they aren't dealing with, or trauma, or whatever it might be. Like there's still like a human aspect to this. No matter what you think of, well, Aaron, but Nick and Kayla, I try to just remember the human side of this. Like all of this spawned from a lack of something in them. Not to sound all like Hallmarky or anything, but it's just like none of this stuff would happen if they felt fulfilled to begin with, whether that be sexually, emotionally, whatever.
Right. No, I mean it's true. Yeah, you said it. I can't say anymore because I mean, there's nothing to add to that.
Yeah,
I should watch what I should. I know a lawyer would tell me not to say this, but I'm thinking about Ashton from Keno Casino, and when he was saying, fuck the legal, go with the moral, go with the moral. The moral part of this is when I talk to that detective today, I should tell him fucking charge him.
Wow.
Oh, if he don't,
sorry.
And I know legally.
My 2-year-old is coloring in the
because I'm not
corner,
the
and he's
legal
going,
guardian, I have no
wow.
legal responsibility for those.
hang on,
children.
because hold on, wait a minute. I hope I can back this up without it cutting off. Hold on, can I go back 15 seconds? Hold on, guys, because the baby's reaction was on point.
Fucking denying
I know.
The timing. where he's like, wow.
Like
Wow.
hearing this shit about their kids and then reading this shit about, how April and Nick were clearly fucked up on stream and everybody could see it. And everybody thought that everybody in that community thought our relationship with the Rekietas was fucked up. Fucking throw me in cuffs. Because I may not be guilty legally of a crime, but God, have I fucked up. God, was I part of something fucking heinous.
I know.
And there needs
Yeah, but being part of something heinous is not illegal. Although some of the things you have implicated yourself in are crimes. I just wonder, man. I don't know if it's going to be something where it's like accessory to something. Having firsthand knowledge and not alerting people about the children and continuing to go over there. Like what we were saying, this wasn't like a weekend thing. I don't know.
Like, could I mean, and anybody that's a lawyer or anything, or do you know if they knew that if he knew that child neglect was happening and he was in there and didn't do anything about it, could he be held liable for anything?
Hold on. Look at that pause. Look at his face. You see that? Hold on. I just noticed that.
What, he's loving life and loving every second of this?
Yeah,
What are we
like hold
looking
on.
at?
He's smiling. That little
Just
shit.
like when
Tell
Johnny
you
when
what.
Johnny cracked the little quote or whatever from the film a minute ago, and he like burst out laughing and said, like, I don't know, you said a minute ago that when
Got
you
him out
get
of his center.
well, like you said a minute ago, when you get nervous or whatever, or overwhelmed, sometimes you giggle. I don't think it's that, dude. I think it's all of the other stuff is just a facade. He's just putting on this act for everybody, and underneath, I think he's been giddy about this since jump, since
Oh yeah, well
before the
even
arrest.
like even on MLC when he first found out about the arrest, I remember us going over it and being like stopping and being like, "Oh my, look, he's smiling like the whole time."
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hon, I just want to see a little bit more of this, and then I'm gonna forward to some other things, but and this is when I was just like, holy crap, hold on. This was literally the day after he sent the nude to Gino. Okay.
I don't know. Hold on.
Be interesting to find out.
Somebody said, why is the page so small? Hold control and scroll up. Is it not big on your screen? We're watching it now on Rumble. It's probably going to be gone when we're done. These things are forever, and your children are going to find out, whether it be, in tomorrow or in 6 months or in 2 years or whatever. This will follow them, and that's my biggest thing with him. Like his I get him wanting to discuss it because this is his life, right? Like I get him wanting to be like, oh my gosh, let me explain some things. But that's a lot different than going on Kino Casino for 5 hours and talking about really explicit things that you did with this man's wife, 5 children's mother, to your point earlier. Like this stuff will follow your children, and I just have a really, what do you say about that? Who knows if they will be, bullied for it or what? But at the very least, if you think that your children are just going to, not be affected by this, and that they are, maybe they'll just shrug and be like, yeah, whatever, that was a time in my past and dad's history. That's the same kind of mentality as that. The fact that you didn't notice children were being neglected, and that you didn't notice that your kids are probably telling their mother. And that's what I think really happened here, Jackie, from start to finish. I think his ex-wife, I know she's been watching this. She has a restraining order against April. She also has a court order saying, has a court order against April saying she's not allowed to drive the children anywhere. Apparently they don't get along to begin with, but because her children do go into his care, half the time, she is on top of things and watching all of this stuff unfold. So I've got to, who's to say that she didn't, reach out to Aaron and say, I've been watching these streams. I see how this is going. I'm putting 2 and 2 together. I want you to do something about this and put a stop to whatever your part in it is, or I'm going to file for full custody of our children. And then so he's
that could have been the reason why he left, and he's just trying to make up. Yep. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, that's my theory. So he's like, fuck it, let's burn it all down. And in doing this, I'll just air everything out. That'll absolve me from everything. I'll look like the hero. I'll look like the dad that got out of here unscathed. But I've got a feeling that his ex-wife was like, here's the ultimatum. Not just leave April, because she's not the only one that was involved. And I don't know. I think she's like forcing his hand and maybe saying, who can blame her? Who can blame her? No matter what kind of a father he is.
Right. I mean, because here.
All right. Shush, Jackie. Now, so this is before. I just want to make sure that I have this right. So did Ashley file another HRO against him, or was the HRO like that hearing from the one that was given to them in January?
Yes, the latter.
Okay.
Because don't you know, we had questioned that at one point. We're like, why did it take so long for them to like serve it?
Right.
As far as I know, it's just been the one.
Because wasn't it that we thought it was, we were trying to look at the timeline to see if it was filed or served to him after the hot tubs. Was it after the hot tub stream or before the hot tub stream? And I think it was before the hot tub stream, because they had mentioned something about it and like passing ish type thing in the hot tub stream. So
not only that, but there were videos of when April was still on the show, and they would get into a little spat over whatever, and she'd be like, I'm so stressed out over the stack of papers upstairs. And at the time, people were like, ooh, what is it? Divorce papers? Is it all the tickets she's, accumulating from speeding back and forth all over the place? No, it was this HRO and all of the evidence, which had all the text messages between April and Ashley. Well, all of them for that matter, the parent group text, all of that. So that was like hanging over their head at that point. April was not allowed, I guess it was pending because it hadn't been served yet. But she's thinking, I can't, help drive the kids back and forth. And yeah, to your point, though, I'm just saying that was on the table and she knew it. And that caused a lot of issues between them. So when it came down to it, it was easier for Aaron to walk away from it and be like, okay, I guess you can have April. Like, he had to get out of it. I feel like, man. So he plotted and he thought about it. And how can I do this the best way?
It was like, yeah. No, because I think you're right, though, because it's like the easiest way for him to just like kill two birds with one stone, make his ex-wife happy, and then get another ex-wife,
Yeah. And him ending up on the search warrant and being one of the key pieces to why that warrant was served to begin with tells me he had already processed it in his mind that April was gone, that part of his life was over, vengeance. It's in the beginning of every show. It's part of like the opening to his show, vengeance. But he said it over and over. Like, I'm a very vengeful person. And no matter how long it takes, I will get people, I will get whoever back for wronging me. So I think by that point he was like, all right, well, she's already gone. She's clearly like, they're doing their thing over there and she's getting more and more in like heavily into the drugs and all that. I'll just give up what I know. That way I don't get any kind of weird charges. I'm no longer involved anyway, but I'm sure they're still doing all these things. So what if I give up this information and then blah, blah, blah happens. And then all three of them, because when he started talking about it, he was always very sympathetic to Kayla. And I think it's because he felt like she was, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, she was mixed in, like his enemy wasn't Kayla, but to get back at April and Nick by him going and giving all this information up, like if they go and they raid the house and something like this happens, a casualty of war. That's what I was trying to say. Kayla's just like a casualty in the mix of things, and that's why he felt so bad. Yes. That's why he felt so bad, I think, and so sympathetic towards her, and had this whole long thing about their relationship and soulmates and proverbs and the charcuterie board and all of this, because I think he really did feel for her. I think he felt a lot of things for her, but his vengeance and hatred for the fact that he just got cucked out of a marriage and cucked out of, so and he's Kayla like, okay, right. Yeah. And he even said he was talking to her family members about it. Like they were trying to figure out a way to get her out. So it's like, all right, I keep the kids if I do this. At least two of the people that like I'm really upset with right now for obvious reasons could have all these different implications, charges pressed against them. And I don't know. I cannot help but to think that, because he is the only one out of the situation that came out completely clean, shining. It just doesn't make
until the 27th when he of May when he sent the nude.
Fair enough. But even that wasn't like you said, it wasn't like in a harassing way or like to get back at Kayla. He was just trying to show out. But it's like, and I don't think anything's going to come from that either. Like at the end of the day, he's going to walk away from this while everything burns behind him.
He's a shiny turd.
Yes. Very shiny turd.
Very shiny turd.
Yes. Put that on a shirt.
With his picture on it.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Oh my. All right. Where are we at? This is coming up on Aaron saying that he didn't speak up. Okay.
He appears to be making an excited look and has a white powdery substance on his nose. The detective believes his behavior is indicative of central nervous system stimulants.
Hold on. I'm fast forwarding.
And based on your detective's training and experience, the behavior of Nicholas in his video blog indicates polysubstance use, meaning it is believed he was ingesting more than one substance based on his behavior. Being both excited and nearly passing out, this can be consistent behavior of using both CNS stimulants and depressants. Well, that would be coke and booze. Booze being a depressant.
Thanks, Aaron.
I don't think
clarifying.
Ketamine, but they did find that in the house. Your detective believes that the report.
I'm trying to get to his.
You guys want to line up and you want to fucking throw stones? Feel free. I'll read them all. I deserve it. I feel
such a martyr
at the moment.
So it's not just comments. He's like,
chat,
listen, just
so.
throw in some super chats. I'll
Yep.
read them all. Just throw them in.
I swear
there,
I haven't
guys.
watched it.
Just,
I swear on my life. Thank you. I'm
whatever.
glad you said it. Yeah, I was gonna say there were thousands of comments in the chat. When you're
in the
right,
chat
you're
without
right.
chat,
But
I
no, he
know.
wanted to make sure that you knew that he would address everything you paid for.
Here, just here's my, here you go.
my offering plate.
Yeah, pass it around.
I'll
throw in a
read them
little
all. I'll read them all. Oh my god.
Oh god.
And I don't want to hear any white
Very
knighting. You
convenient. I
don't
had
need
that
the
bowl
white
right
knight
there.
for me.
I know.
Clear.
That's
Pretty
clear.
clear.
Right about. Go ahead. And
I
read
know,
that
it's
fucking search
Yarn
warrant
bowl
affidavit.
for
I don't know why
crocheting.
that came from. That's I'm gutted.
Not anymore.
I'm so responsible.
Oh god.
I mean,
After the fact, that doesn't work like that. You're responsible
to all the
during.
Rekieta kids, I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry about your kids.
For whatever that's worth, I'm sorry. I apologize for not doing the right thing. This is that Nazi shit. Where you're like, well, it wasn't my job. Well, I didn't say anything. I didn't speak up. It wasn't my place. It's always your fucking place when there's children involved.
It's almost as hold on. I'm sorry. And
You're
I know
fine.
that the stream is long and everything, but you have to comment on this shit because he is almost anointing Nick as some guru cult leader who people would, go kill for or whatever.
He said that. He has said that several times that it felt like a cult and that Nick felt like a cult leader. He has. To your point, he has.
Give me
This
a
whole time,
break.
learn from me. If there's no, like I said, there's no penance for me. There's no forgiveness for me on this one. The only thing I can do is that hopefully some of you learn that if you ever find yourself in the same unfortunate situation, that you fucking do something about it.
When would you, first of all? Go ahead.
Yeah. You know what though? Hold on. Even though that I did say that, give me a break about the whole cult leader. Thinking about it just for a second though, could it be that he was so I don't know, glazed over and gleeful that this guy, Nick Rekieta, who has 450,000 followers on YouTube, is giving him the time of day and allowing him and his wife in. I mean, there's a lot of different things. That I'm okay, I get it now. That as time goes on, but still, it's just dude.
Yeah. I
Ugh.
mean, look at all it
I'm
costs
so
him.
exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the victim. He wants to both be the victim and also the hero.
You're
He's
regretting doing
flip-flopping
this
back and forth, back
story.
and forth.
Mom.
Yep.
You're like, oh, I shouldn't have.
Don't just sit there and go on a show and bitch after the fact. Go do something about it.
6 months later,
Yeah,
here
Flex
we
with
are.
$2 says one question: did you
know.
eat the loads, punk? That's a little poorly timed. Thunderbolt Vintage with $5 says keep up the good work, boys. Enjoying the show.
Hold on,
Haters gonna
hold on,
hate,
hold
stay
on.
humble.
Yep. You heard it.
Foreshadowing.
Yep.
I got it. All right.
Yeah. What has he
Flex
done?
with $2 says one question: did you eat the loads, punk? That's a little poorly timed. Thunder.
What did you say? That's a little something times.
Oh, you heard it. You heard it. He said that's a little poorly timed because he's sitting here talking
Oh.
about I'm sorry to the kids and blah blah blah, and then he reads this one about
Oh, okay. His herbal essence.
his herbal
Thunderbolt Vintage with $5 says
essences.
keep up the good work, boys. Enjoying the show. Haters gonna hate. Please stay humble and don't take the little things for granted. Cabernet with $2 says Rekieta's bull was born on Christmas Eve. It doesn't really matter now.
Okay.
Yes, I was born on Christmas.
Oh,
Hey,
and now
we're
he's
now
calling
on
himself
Bull
the bull.
With
Oh, I
$2.
even said it
Says,
there.
so, Aaron,
too.
when are you going to have the pastor on? Goofing. Citizen M with $4.99 says, Aaron, you admittedly and repeatedly popped pills in their home. While the children were there, you also knowingly brought your children to a drug den.
Oh,
Yes.
You're right.
Those are accurate statements.
What are we going to
Johnny.
do? Deny that?
thanks, Johnny.
Truth should have its day.
Speaking of the day, you think it's gonna rain? It's looking
Fuck off.
Oh my
kinda
God.
dark, and I
Read
was
the
really hoping
room.
to get that fucking pool filled today, man. And now if it's gonna rain,
Flimsy Greenberg can
I
suck.
said
my
read the
dick.
room.
We get it. You're a hero. Now back to
Yeah.
Can you?
That was the constant theme with Johnny this whole one. We're like, first off, why is he even there? Because he didn't say anything the whole time. And he's just trying he wants it over with. He's like, can we move on? This is uncomfortable for me.
He's Aaron's registered emotional support human.
Yes. So if he goes on a plane, does Johnny have to sit on his lap?
Well, yeah, because Johnny can't really walk, so that works too.
Oh.
Yeah.
And does he have to wear a t-shirt that says I'm Aaron's emotional support human?
Do not touch.
Yeah.
Approach with caution. Oh my
Oh,
lord.
Merry Christmas.
Yep. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Okay.
I mean, what? Are you hearing the same thing I am? Seriously. He's literally like, oh, I can care for both of them for the first time ever.
I feel like in a sense though, like from watching all the interviews and stuff that he's done and how he's talked and how he responds to different things, like he's trying to be everything for everyone and give them the answer he thinks they want to hear.
Yep. And it just changes.
Even the little ones,
from
like,
chat
read
to chat
through.
or whatever, whoever he's talking to.
Yeah.
Being
Right,
jealous.
baby?
Very happy. They're fine.
Right.
My kids are great. And
Yes.
I'm so lucky for that. Fast forward with $5 says, Aaron, you wear the same 3 shirts every week. Are you being neglected?
That's hilarious. Isn't that hilarious considering like what we're talking about? I think that's hilarious. Look at his face. If I could zoom in more, I don't want to test it, but come on, man.
Nobody.
Child
took care
neglect
of
is
me
so
either.
funny.
Abe Dobson with $4.99 says, Aaron, you're hilarious. New favorite show. Yeah, the funny bit we're doing right now. Yeah. All hype with $5.
All right, and this is literally 5 minutes after he's been talking about, look at what we've done.
Yep.
Says, need a sincere answer. If any one of those children developed a drug problem in the future, would you drop everything and do anything to help them? I fucking better. I'm going to say, yes, I would. And I'd better be fucking held to that. I owe those
Look at
kids
his
whatever
face.
help
Hold
they
on.
need
You
for the
got to
rest of
back
their
that up
lives.
5 seconds and listen to him answer this. And when you do, watch like this area of his face.
Okay.
People have tells, and you can tell when people are just BSing and lying. Just watch like this area of his face. You can tell he doesn't mean any of it, not a word of it.
Would you drop everything and do anything to help them? I fucking better. I'm going to say, yes, I would. And I'd better be fucking held to that. I owe those kids whatever help they need for the rest of their lives.
The 2 seconds he
I
did
owe
it
those
again.
kids
The
whatever
2
fucking years
seconds,
they
like
need to
after
bend,
that
whatever-
last word. Sorry, I'm a body language expert. No, but 2 seconds after like the last, and I damn well you better be held up, held to it. Those like 2 seconds where his brain is processing the lie, and he does like this weird freeze thing, and then when he says the next sentence, he does it again. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I've watched him for too long. Oh, that's for sure. But you can tell that he doesn't mean what it is he's saying. Like he lets it sit and resonate for a second, and his brain is trying to figure out, like, did they buy it? Did they buy it? And then he comes in with another
Right.
sentence, backing it up, and then did they buy it? Did they buy it? And then he moves on.
Oh man.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is him just going through him talking about how he owes those kids everything. If they needed anything, that he needs to be there for them. And then this is when people start asking him, will you give the money from the show to the kids?
Mm-hmm. Whatever happened to
fucking
that?
shoulder they need, whatever fucking hand up that they need. I fucking
You're
owe.
like,
I owe.
I know.
Ashley Wheeler with $2
You're like,
says, I know you feel bad, but the law can't do anything. I can ask him to. God. Maybe I should just ask him, like, can you fucking tase me or something?
yeah, exactly. What? That's exactly right. Your baby was like, what? Can they tase me?
Yeah.
This
Oh, but then he'll be wait, tase me, but like let's put it on camera at the specific time.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll be like, don't tase me, bro. And then he'll be the new don't tase me, bro.
Hey, that's Andrew Meyer. That's my homie. That's my don't tase me, bro. That's my homie. That's my
I love
friend. Andrew, shout out.
Because like I've been publicly tased for amusement all the time, and I love seeing people absorb large amounts of electricity. So let's do this. I mean,
Like,
I'll hold your hand.
Johnny, come on,
Hilarious.
man.
Hey, shit.
Like, I know he
That is
means well,
fucking
but
difficult to
also,
read,
like,
and we're not done yet either.
yeah, we
I
are,
know.
I
but
just needed a little fucking break.
he doesn't understand, like, the
from
weight
what a
of
piece
the
of shit I am.
situation.
So here's the actual search warrant. You know what? I'm going to. I
Because
know
they're
this
not
is terrible
friends.
timing.
He goes away, he goes to the bathroom.
Remembers 2 weeks ago.
I don't think.
Yeah, right. You're looking great right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
for the
and then
whole
they
not
start talking about LawTube,
Cabernet
and
with
I
$2 says, did
this is
Rekieta ever
really
address his
interesting.
streams declining? I don't know. We didn't really talk about streaming stuff very often. We didn't. I know people have been asking me a lot of streaming questions. He didn't really address it. Dr. Silverwolf, becoming a member for 2 years now, says, I'm more mad that you lied to us listeners and used us mods to help the drug-addicted bitch attempt to torpedo the show to cover her stupid ass.
I didn't
All
hear
can
that
say is
one.
I'm sorry, but I neglected a lot more than that, as clear in this affidavit. And by the way, LawTube, suck a fucking dick. Jesus, is LawTube fucking embarrassing for the fucking nose guarding that fucking Rekieta. Maybe the search warrant is bullshit and he'll get off on that. There's no getting off on this. There's no excusing this. There's no, even if you get off on a technicality, you should be judged and judged harshly. All of us should. I'm guilty. I plead guilty to all.
But by who?
I'm guilty. Your fucking turn, Nick.
Yeah.
If it's by God, guess what?
I
That's
can
already
sit here and I can
passed.
say
That
I'm
time
guilty,
is
you
passed,
fucking
sir.
arrogant cunt. But you can't
God doesn't
fucking
need a year
say
to
you're
judge
guilty.
you.
Say it. If you're a godly man, you fucking stand before your creator right fucking now and you say you're guilty. Because I'm
Who's to
guilty.
say he hasn't?
I failed. I fucked up. Your turn, Dad. Pops.
This is very inappropriate at the time,
No
but
excuse.
he sounds like one of those low right internet preachers right now.
Yeah. I better go back too far. Yeah. Yeah. But it's once again, it's admit you're guilty. Admit you're guilty. Why is that so important to him? I mean, obviously,
Right.
you know, and of course that's something that you would want to hear if you were all for involved or whatever. But why is he so focused on that? Like of all the
I don't
different
know.
like elements to this story. Well, okay, so he says he's trying to get an anger response from Nick. Maybe, but I don't think, I mean,
No,
Nick has
You
made
know
some
what?
really bad decisions, but he's not.
he's not trying to get an anger response. He doesn't want any response from Nick. He wants, after all that, it's all about him. He wants you, the viewer, to see him as this self-righteous man who has learned the error of his ways, and he is just taking all the responsibility, and he has this righteous indignation that these other people are not as evolved as he as he is. Look at me, I am the best.
Yeah. Well, because it automatically puts them in a different category. If he's like,
Right.
I'm guilty, I've already atoned for my sins, then they're automatically by default down here compared to him. Right.
And that's the biggest thing. And I've said it a few times now too. Is the only difference between him and them is that he didn't get arrested. He
Yeah.
didn't get caught.
That's
That's
it.
it. That's the only difference. And he's even more of a piece of trash in my mind because he said that he was the sober one the whole time.
Right.
You
I
have
wonder-
no excuse.
I
then.
agree. And I wonder, I think I've said this in the past too, but I wonder also if the tables had been turned, the cops came in over at Aaron's house, how would there be neglect charges on his children just for the fact that, I mean, if they're being ignored to that degree, it's like,
Yeah.
he only had him up for a little bit of, you know, a small amount of time every week. But
Right.
I would like, I do wonder that, did he treat his children differently in the home, or were they also having to wait around on SpaghettiOs? Were they also having to, whatever, cart them off with the tablet in the corner? I don't know.
What they
He
telling
just-
their mom, we don't like going over there because they take us to this weird place and we don't see him for hours.
And that right there is exactly why I think Ashley was like on the case. And she was like, all right,
Yeah.
bet.
Yeah.
And she should be. Like, you can't feel comfortable, you know, him exchanging the children at the police station and feeling okay about what the kids are getting ready to go indoor for the weekend. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, I don't blame Ashley at all. She is the saint. She's Saint LaRue for a reason.
I mean, it's wild going back. I tell you that
Yeah.
for sure.
Stupid. And he is a lawyer. He's still in the bar. I don't think he's
Right.
going to let Aaron bait him into any kind of response or debate or any of that. I don't see him responding.
And him
Well,
saying
so-
that F,
few months
F
later.
LawTube and all this other stuff. And he's the only reason why he's saying that is because they're not talking
Yeah.
about the salacious part, which has
Be right
him
back, I'm
involved
listening.
in it. They're not talking
Okay.
about him at all on LawTube, if we're being honest, because he has nothing to do with these charges right now. So
How
that could-
awful is it that it was only a short few weeks, I think, after this that they actually did start talking about. I think it might have been the revenge porn stuff when people in LawTube started talking more and more about Aaron. But it was true in the beginning. The people at LawTube weren't talking about the other stuff. They were literally just talking straight up on the legal case. And he was just not happy about that. But I think it was the who was it, like Robert Barnes and Viva Fry talking about it too, that people had issue with, and I think that's what he was talking about too. I don't know.
Probably be pissing him off for one, but they're like, I don't know. It's like almost a righteous indignation that he's trying to show, but then he's like, oh wait, I have to say that I'm guilty too because I am. And,
Well, and I think
you know,
I think he's
they
also
can't
admit-
say
sorry, go
anything. They can't admit guilt or anything like that until they go to their next trial in August. So he might, even if he wanted to, he can't. They're
Yeah.
being charged. They still have things that they got to do legally. You can say anything you want right now. So I don't know. And then now, and that's why he's saying F law tube and the law, blah blah blah. I bet you're guilty.
Well, I think he also sees them as siding with Nick, even though Nick
Right.
is obviously has some responsibility in all of this, and I think that pisses him off, which I get.
Right.
You know, and as lawyers, you're supposed to stand by the truth and not your homies. Like, I don't know. I
Right.
think a lot of people feel like they owe it to Nick because Nick made a lot of these people. A lot of these people were no-name lawyers,
That
and you know,
changed.
until all of these trials
Yup.
happened, and they started going and being on his panel and being part of LawTube. Nick, I know, has told Aaron supposedly that he feels like he has to buy friends, and that most of the people that he, you know, did become close to have distanced themselves from him and don't have his back and that kind of thing. Which they'll tell you different, that they've tried to help him and they've tried to come to him in private and all
Right.
that. But I think a lot of Aaron's anger towards the LawTube community is that they have sided with Nick and they have tried to explain away things, because there were a couple that were like, oh well, you're going to find this warrant's BS and they had no right to enter the home and that kind of stuff. So it is
Right.
like they're running cover for him
Yeah.
to a degree, and it's just not the
Yeah.
case. And
And they
shows
did.
more about them and their profession, in my opinion. You know,
Well, what's wild is that in the beginning it was like that. I think it was a lot of people surprised, or like, I don't know, like, holy crap, this is actually happening. Like, because I think about Sean, right? He
Yeah.
was very like, all right, let's be methodical, factual on what these actual things are, what are the paths. And it wasn't until Nick started doing his kooky things that he was like, all right, I'm done. I'm over it. I'm over you because
Yeah.
you're being a dick.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and they already had a little bit of bad blood from some
Right.
of the things that I've seen where Nick like went off on him. So
yeah. So
mhm.
it's to see that in the beginning, how angry Aaron was at LawTube for just looking at the paperwork itself and their analysis on it, to how buddy he is with them now.
Mhm.
Wild.
Yep,
So wild. It feels slithery.
it is. Let me introduce you to this man, Aaron Imholte.
Right.
You won't believe it, but it is. It's because just in the same way that he hated Kiwi Farms until he didn't.
He mentioned
same
Kiwi
thing.
Farms in here too.
Of course.
Yeah.
He needs as many people as he can on his side. So the second people start, you know, seeing it, you know, he's gonna buddy up.
Yeah. We're gonna play just a few more minutes of this, and then we'll get towards the end and like wrap it up with a nice little bow.
It's like
Right.
your job is to chase the truth and lay out the facts, not, you know, back up your homie. But anyway,
Yeah. No, I can see.
let
Yeah,
me
I
get
see
through
that.
that.
Your turn, Dad, Pops, Father, your fucking turn. No excuses. No, you didn't see what you saw wasn't what you saw. What are you gonna tell him now? What you read isn't what you read? Nick, we're fucking guilty and we're gonna fucking burn for it. And we deserve it.
Keep looking at
They're gonna
yourself in
be
the
on,
mouth.
Twitter and Kiwi Farms and everything in the news. And they're gonna read this arrest report or the search warrant affidavit, and they're gonna talk about what we did. And don't ever fucking deny it. Don't ever excuse it. We fucking did it. We neglected those kids. We treated them like shit. We didn't love them.
This is why this was erased.
Didn't take care of them.
Mm.
We're
Could be.
fucking guilty, dude.
We didn't love them. We didn't take care of them.
Fucking say it and say it publicly. Fuck.
do I reach these keys?
Ha ha ha! Hilarious. Child neglect. Oh, that's so hilarious. So funny.
Sorry, you said
Read the
I
room.
sat on it as long as I could. Cartman had to speak.
How's
Cartman.
this, Nick? Fucking say. I know you're watching. I know someone's gonna send it to you, and you're gonna see it. By the way, cunt face, how's my fucking credibility now? Oh, this guy's credibility is approaching infinite zero. Fuck you. Every fucking document that's come out is everything I fucking said.
Oddly
Suck my
enough.
dick with fucking credibility. You're so worried about pointing out other people's credibility. You're so worried about protecting your fucking reputation. I wish you and I gave half a fuck about feeding your fucking children, you piece of shit. I wish that we gave half a fuck about feeding the fucking kids as we did fucking each other's wives. I hope it was fun. I hope we had a great fucking time. Because kids wore stinky fucking clothes to school and they were hungry. And what did we do? Nick, you went down and did a show and got fucked up with my wife, and I sat upstairs and hung out in the bedroom with yours. Oh God, we failed children, dude. And all your social media posts, all the dumb shit you've written since you got out of jail has been about how you're not guilty and how this is all this and this is all that. Dude, read the fucking affidavit. Read what the community was saying about us. Read what the church was saying about us. The fucking pastor watched you go to the bathroom during fucking church and come back zooted. He fucking watched it, dude. We're guilty as sin. This is not, I mean, long term, this will be good for me becoming a better person and figuring shit out, but this is going to be a setback today. That was hard to fucking read.
This is all about him, you guys, okay? Somebody needs to go and check on Aaron to make sure he's okay. You heard it, Jackie.
And nothing needs to be said. I mean, it's just it's right there.
Now here you have it. I think he's about done.
From his mouth to God's ears, I guess, as they say.
Yeah, there it is.
Because I knew in the abstract that I was guilty and a bad father and bad with the kids and everything else. But to actually read specifically what I allowed is fucking
That's why
hard.
I said to you in the text, I said, it feels like he didn't realize it until he saw it in black and white letters on that that application for a search warrant, that he was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, the further he read into it, I was kind of hoping that there was going to be more things, that sort of implicated him in his responsibility in all of this. And that's me just, and I don't wish anything bad upon him, but just hearing him read through it and it dawning on him, I would have loved for part of that to have been about, like, the one guy that supposedly whatever was responsible and in a decent enough state to try to take care of the kids. He did nothing either,
Right.
I don't know, man.
Joking about making SpaghettiOs and shit. Now that makes me even angrier now.
Yeah. He had full knowledge of it, and maybe, like you said, it was just him explaining it away in his head, or compartmentalizing this and that, or excusing it, I guess, to a degree, because the pretty shiny thing was like so much, had a hold of his vision or whatever.
Or maybe even him thinking, oh, well, there's 3 other adults here. They'll do it.
Yeah. Or, I mean, to the point about his children, obviously there's a responsibility there for who he let over and where he took them and that kind of thing. But maybe in his mind, since this came out and none of the child neglect charges were against him or April for that matter, maybe in his mind, this was always a their problem thing, a Rekieta issue. So he already just sort of like, explained it away to himself in his mind. I don't know.
And had it separated in his head. Yeah.
I think both things are true.
Because
I feel like watching it again, it's weird because it's performative, but then you also at the same time feel like it's somewhat sincere in some areas, but it's the performance that ruins everything else that could have been sincere.
Again, I feel like the amount of drama and theater and stuff that we're seeing here and the overkill with the emotional response is because he's not on the line for this. Again, it's Nick, Kayla, April. He can sit there and scream about how he's responsible, but at the end of the day, he's not being held to account. So it's easier for him to be like, we did this. He's not.
Right.
Nothing comes out of it for him.
Wild.
And like we said, it makes him look better by default.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
the mind is a
Yeah.
powerful thing. Just
So
as
is
cocaine is
cocaine.
a powerful drug.
Exactly. Air high five. Yes, exactly.
Oh my word.
Let's finish up.
Get
Is that
the
it?
fuck-
Yeah, the election thing has really got me worried. Like,
It's
what's
Oh,
really,
God.
it's trouble.
Him
right?
again
It's a
with-
problem. I don't know where
All
the future
right.
of this country.
Negotiate with,
That's
you
true.
know? So
Okay.
I think that's I
Just
think
like
that's
the
more
end.
probable. I don't think it's like out of the kindness of his heart, to be honest with you. I really don't. And I feel like, with just how he came off, like since this is all popped off, he just has to double down. Like he can't backtrack now.
Yeah.
He can't
That's true.
he can't stay mum on any of the situation now. He let all 50, 100,000 cats out of the bag.
What do you think about
So-
the timing of this with actually, let me see if I can bring this up. We're done listening to him, but I would suggest to anybody interested to go to that Rumble page, the Steel Toe Morning Show, and see if you can watch the end of that. I plan to as soon as I get off here because I haven't seen it. But let me bring up this timeline one more time because this is something I wanted to ask you your thoughts on. So we went over this part, like, May 16th is when it gets reported. May 17th, Aaron tells April to come home. May 21st, Aaron screams for help for his friend Nick to stop. Begs April to go to her parents now. And there's also text. This is all stuff that came off the stream, but he also talked about sending her text messages in between. His wife, April. May 22nd, Aaron dances with powdered sugar on his nose, making fun of the friend that he's so worried about. Talks to April's parents. Again, tells April and Kayla to get out of there. May 23rd, in the morning hours, police rammed down Rekieta's door. May 24th, he announces whoever did this is a hero and braver than anyone watching and thinking this is entertaining or something from which to derive profit. You tell me what's going on. Do you think, what do you think of the timing of all of this going down like it did and him begging them right beforehand?
I don't know, because it's suspect, but it also could be a coincidence. I don't know. It is very suspect because there were 4 people who said something. So, and I will say, when he read that there was 4 people that said something to the pastor, he was extremely surprised. So
Yeah,
it could
that's
have
true.
been, the surprise could have been like, hey, it's because there was people that actually saw it happening, or it could be like, oh wow, there was another person besides myself who said something. So yeah, and that's right. Anna the Star Wars girl's tweets did nail it on the head, and the real victims are the kids in this whole situation.
Remember how pissed off Nick got at Anna's the Star Wars girl for putting that tweet out?
Yep.
I forgot all about that.
He was irate.
He was pissed.
So like, I don't know. I go back and forth with it, but I do think it's very strange that, he was telling April to go home. He's trying, and then at the same time, he's trying to get Kayla or Rekieta to leave at the same time, because he said that too. So could it be just this thing like where it was just like we said, too many cucks in the hen house, and he's just like, well, I want this guy to go down so then I can have all the women and start my own harem. I don't know. But it's odd, it's sad, and it's extremely salacious.
Well, and he was asked in today's stream at some point this morning, the one that we were just watching, that basically like the breaking point for him was that Nick was getting super jealous of how the relationship between his wife and Aaron was going, to the point where he was like demanding to know what was happening and what they were doing together and all this weird stuff. But I don't know. I find the timing of all of it weird. I find the fact that for whatever really happened that forced him to break away from this polycule, the timing of it compared to when this was reported is so sketchy to me. And before we knew that it had been reported or any of this was going down, these dates and stuff, that was prior to Nick's weird stream where he was like, falling over and something was happening under the desk. That was prior to that. And I don't know, you could go one of 2 ways, where it's like he knew it was bad or whatever and they needed to leave, but he pushed this on a bunch of his different streams where he was like pleading with them that they needed to get out of there. He said that more than once, not just like you need to get help or you guys need to go, whatever, get substance abuse counseling or whatever. It was get out of the house. You need to come home. You need to go to your parents. Get out. It just seems really sketchy to me this whole time. And I'm not trying to point the finger at him, but the other thing that bothered me about that was that, with a search warrant, they knew specifically where to go. Now, mind you, if you ram down the door and you're just searching the entire house, that's one thing. But it sounds to me, based on like what was said in the search warrant versus what they like, where they went in the house, to the bathroom, to the bedroom, seemed really specific for someone that would be in that home. Now, maybe the housekeeper that left, maybe she was one of them, but would she have gone to the pastor? Like, to me, it sounds like either people from the church or the homeschooling thing, Nick's homeschooling situation. I don't know, man. This whole thing is an absolute wreck. It's an absolute wreck.
Yeah.
There's so many moving parts and so many personalities.
Here's my thing. I was going to ask you what you think about it now.
So, listen to what I just said. I feel like Aaron said he left in what, April or late March, or I think he said like the last time April. He had all of those weeks, like the day he left, he could have started pleading with them to leave. He could have called April's mom. He could have told Kiki the truth. He could have whatever, talked to Kayla's brother and sister, whoever, to try to get her out of that situation. Why did he wait until the day before if he had no idea that was getting ready to go down? Because it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't like a passive, you guys really need to chill and, go get help. It was get out of the house. To me, it's like, I cannot ignore the fact that for weeks, he didn't say a word to anybody about anything and kept acting like April was upstairs and just would be in later or whatever. When the reality of it was, if it was that dire, why would you allow it to go on for weeks and weeks and weeks and just so happen to start getting vocal about it to everyone involved the day before this happens?
Right.
I can't ignore that. To me, that's like, I mean, if it was that bad, then he would have said something sooner, right? Like he would have been like the second he left, April, please come home, please come home. Not bullshitting the internet every day on his show to make his audience believe like she was still there, and then waiting until, I don't know, the cops let him know that something was getting ready to go down that week. I mean, come on. I think he was an informant the entire time. The entire time. And I'm standing on it.
All right.
Who's closer to them? Nobody. He was involved. So it's like how the cops aren't going to get like a little bit closer to, gather evidence.
Right. No, you're right. You're right.
The day before.
I know. The day before. And
you just so happen to have an MLC interview lined up the day that they get arrested. Nah, I cannot see it any other way. And maybe that's just me being a conspiracy theorist. And the timing is too on the nose for some of the actions that he did around that time.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think, well, one thing that wasn't in there, and I apologize, I'm grabbing another tissue because I'm going to need it in a minute, that we skipped over is that in this one, he talks about how he needs to go to the police and give him his messages. And that's why I made that note that it's wild that he would have to give his messages over or whatever and stuff. And that was the day after he had sent Gino the nude of Kayla. Mm-hmm. So he talks about going to the police and talking to them about some stuff that he had known because they do have him in the application for a search warrant and things like that. Mm-hmm. So,
and there's at least one, if not two. Well, let me take that back. I can remember one time when he was like, on Wednesday, I've got to go down and talk to the detectives. They called me today and they want me to come in and like give them a statement. And then there was the other time that we've watched before, where he's like, his phone rings or whatever, and he looks at it and he like sort of panics for a minute, looks over at Slam Peace over in the corner, the beanbag chair, wherever the hell she was, and is like, I'll be right back, guys. I have to take this call. I'm so sorry, whatever. And he like breaks away for a minute and he's gone. That was before the arrest. And he comes back and 20 minutes later, 15, 20 minutes later, the live stream's going the whole time looking at an empty chair. He comes back clearly rattled, but there's like a undercurrent of like, and he's like looking over at her and just sort of like, this unspoken thing, like, that. And obviously she heard whatever the conversation was. So she knows what they were talking about back and forth. So he comes back and he tries to like blow it off like it wasn't, that big of a deal. But it's all over him. It's all over him. Nerves because he knows it's about to go down. Glee because it's about to go down. Vengeance, that like vengeful, like because it's about to go down. And then like the other piece of like, I've got to play it off in front of these people, that are looking at me so that it doesn't, they don't pick up on anything. But that was before, I want to say it was like the night before or like 2 days before the arrest was when that happened. To me, like, and I'm not saying that's when they said, hey, it's going down Wednesday in the morning at whatever hour, but it was almost like they were checking the last couple of things. Is April still over there? Do you have any idea, is she going to be
Right.
there? Or do we need to go look for her another place whenever we serve this warrant or whatever? They talk for 15, 20 minutes and he comes back. I'm telling you, the writing's on the wall. And
Yeah.
I think that's another reason, like all of his personality flaws and his ridiculous lying and grandstanding and theatrical BS, that all of that aside, the fact that I can't ignore all these signs. And to me, it's a snitch. And that's it. I cannot stand a liar and I can't stand a snitch. And to watch him like get on here every day and just untouchable and God's gift. That's why it irritates me so much, because I'm like, at the end of the day, a lot of us see you and we see what you
Right.
are. It's not that we hate you. It's not that you get under our skin and we just can't wait to see your downfall. It's sickening. It's sickening. And I think I'm even as fascinated with the people that continue to give him money and tune in and watch and watch and watch. I see clips and stuff like that. And in the mornings, if I'm at the gym or something, I'm like, listen, especially if something went down the day before, it's starting to die out a little bit now, the closer we get to trial, court. But
Never know.
I just can't ignore all of those little things. That's why a while back when I was like, I really want to see what happened on the 21st to 22nd around that time. And that's when
Yes.
we found like the media tour stuff getting set up was those couple of days. Like you add all that up. How do you want me to not believe that he was a confidential informant giving them information the entire time? I just
Right. I
can't.
mean, they put that in, and in all of the motions to dismiss,
Mhm.
even how ridiculous they have been, they've all been like, yeah, dude, that how could he be your confidential informant because of this, this, and this reason? But there was no one refuting saying that he wasn't the confidential informant in any of the responses.
Well, the pastor being the one that, came and spoke with the police or whatever, that's one thing.
Right.
That's one thing. But at the very least, I think most people would agree that Aaron was probably one of the four. Yes, we know they got his video, his media stuff and all that, and that he made statements that are the part of the search warrant. But I don't think you can ignore the fact that it went deeper than that. Like he is so much closer to the story than the pastor, than, you know what I mean? Like, no, and that's why I mean, like when you add in like the other emotions that you see come off of him during this, like he was loving it. He was loving it. And it's just.
And what if it comes out and we're like completely wrong about everything?
Then I'll come on here and we'll be like, let's break down how we were completely wrong about everything and laugh about it. And issue apologies.
Right.
What are you going to
do? But
I
mean, it doesn't, but the thing is that what you're saying isn't like of ridiculous at all. It makes a lot of sense.
If you want to know where the stuff is, like in the warrant, where it's like, and Aaron even said several times, he's like, even when we watched this a minute ago, he was like, everything that's come out, all the documents and stuff that have come out are exactly the way I said they were going to be. Well, yeah, because you were there, number one. But number two, if you're the one that's feeding them the information saying, go to this room and look on the third shelf or whatever it might be, then of course it's exactly the way that you said it was going to be. There's too many little things, and the media tour being a part of that. Like there's too many things about this where I'm like, no, this was a methodical, calculated situation. I feel
Do you think we will ever see the
body cam?
Body cam.
I don't know. Having heard some of the lawyers talk about it, from what I understand, once like the plea is in, it comes out either way. Whether or not he pleads out, or if he takes a trial. Because if it's in trial, they have to bring it up. State will bring it up and be like, here's this.
Right.
And because it's like, here's where we found the cocaine, right? Like,
right. And they would have to wait too for it to be presented, right? Before that would come out of that arrest.
I would assume like once it's in state's evidence,
Mm-hmm.
When they put it out to the court. But I don't know. I don't pretend to be a lawyer, but from what I have heard other lawyers say, it would come out either way.
Right.
Because once it's, but that
right, because it's I mean, if you think of all the FOIA requests and stuff too.
Because once it's done, it's done. Either it comes out during
Mhm.
trial, or the case is over, and then there's nothing else pending, so it's available with the FOIA request. So I don't
Right.
know. I don't know.
Interesting. Well, there's a few minutes left, and I want you to see the end.
Okay.
What could happen, blah, 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 blah. Like, I know people give this guy a lot of shit, but legal mindset, he always has the panels on, and I think that they did a good job.
I was
that.
wrong.
I really like potential criminal.
Just kidding.
He's really good. When it comes to the other, I don't know. You send me a lot of stuff, and they're all really good. I think
we're trying to.
the Kino
It's so cute because we're trying to tell people other places where you can find people. You gotta hear it. It's
Casino is actually, it's very entertaining. After a while, I'm just like, y'all, I can't listen to your voices anymore. I've listened too much.
Well, and I like the Canadian accent. I think it's adorable.
I still do.
Hosts of Kino Casino are both
Yeah. I
Canadian.
can't
But
help that.
yes, if you
Go and eat your
You wanna-
poutine and stop.
if you guys want like the juicy information that the more dirty stuff, because it's interesting to hear Aaron tell the stories, even if you're disgusted by what he's saying, which I was. It's still kind of interesting to hear the way that he talks about the happenings between the couples and where the children were at the time and that kind of thing. Go to Kino Casino is on Kick, but if you go on X and go to God, what is it, Warski? Hang on, I'll tell you. I'm trying to remember the handle. Okay, yeah, go to at Andy Warski, at ANDYWARSKI, and their pinned tweet or X or whatever we say these days is the 5-hour stream to see Aaron discuss this in great detail. And actually, potentially Criminal comes on too. Sean, he comes on and they break a little bit of the legal stuff down. Anyway, it's a good stream overall. So yeah, I would say go to
And they've
Kick
been on top of it for months and stuff too. So even going back to like their old clips and everything, if you want to get almost like a different perspective or a clear view of what's transpired before to now. Yeah.
Yep, I would do that. A list of clips that we showed earlier is a good one for little small, tidbits of because you can't watch it all, right? But she grabs a lot from some of these, main clip channels and people that cover it. Nobody Likes Onions is a really good YouTube channel that's also been covering this for actually about a year from when this first started to now. Nick and them, as far as I know, weren't around, but he's been covering Aaron and April and Steel Toe Morning Show for at least a year. So he's on top of things. Really does a good job on that too. So. Oh Lord, I feel like I've been through it now. I'm sorry that we went so far over and there's still so much more to say, but
I know. We didn't get through like I'm telling y'all, we didn't get through half the links that we did and stuff that we researched at all. Like we had so much.
I guess it's tending to go that way every weekend, and Jackie, we'll have to try to tighten it up. Or I don't know, I don't really mind it, but yeah, there was a lot more that we were gonna cover. But hopefully we've set you straight, at least on the right path to get caught up for things that maybe we didn't cover. But you can find me at Lady Kennington on X. There's a link tree in the bio to find any and everywhere else that I am at the current time. Jackie, what's your handle on
Yeah,
X?
you can find me on X at Suburban Mama 1. Suburban Mama, that's the number 1. You can find me there. Yeah, so I don't really do much else or anywhere. That's about it.
You do plenty. Come on. But yeah, so that's it for this round. I guess I'm sure we'll have plenty more to say next week. Maybe we'll pick up again with what we had planned for today. There's a lot that can happen in a week, so we'll see where we go, I guess, for the rest of the week.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I guess that's it for us today. See you next time.
Thank you.
No. Yep. They're a little cute.
I think it's cute to see. We need to change those cards, huh? I think it's neat to see how well we were doing for our second show ever, honestly, from start to finish, and how prepared we were. I mean, not to our own horns or whatever, but we were very thorough and prepared, and even tried to do some shout outs and be all professional about it. And I'm impressed with our little selves for
I'm
episode
impressed
2.
with us too, and it was really well. What's funny looking back at it, because like I know I said at the end, like we didn't even get through half of the different links and things that we wanted to get through, is because that morning is when Aaron had gone through it. So we like just were like scrap it, and then the second that we got I think it was Davey saying in the chat that the stream went down, we're like, oh my god, we have to cover it before it gets taken down on Rumble. So very proud of us.
Yeah, I mean, considering that was on the fly and stuff, I think, and at that point you and I had only known each other for a month, so
yeah,
I think we did pretty good.
yeah, for only 4 weeks. Yeah.
Mhm.
Crazy. It's so crazy. And even just watching even the information back of like what we knew then and compared to what we know now, I know a lot of my opinions have kind of stayed the same on all of it, because it's just like nothing really has changed too much, except for the whole like revenge porn thing. And well, I mean, actually, I take that all back. A lot has changed, but the opinions stayed the same for the most part.
Yeah. And I think the element of Nick sort of coming out and sprinkling a little bit here and there, it's talking and some of the statements that he's made, whether in his digital diary or on his little local streams or whatever, I think that is a side that we didn't have then. We weren't able to hear any of his pushback or spin or any of that. So I don't know. I think more people should look back at the beginning and look at the kind of, like I was saying, the stuff that Aaron did right before then, and like, day of, and not just that, but similarly the way that Nick was behaving. And when you start to look back, 2020, I just think more people should do that, because you can really gain a lot of insight, and there's things that maybe you looked over, or that because you didn't have the information at the time, you couldn't make that kind of a conclusion.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. It's wild.
It really is. It really is. Oh man. But well, thank you all for spending time with us. It was the really interesting look back for sure. You saw the little towhead running around here.
Right.
I keep seeing him. I'm like, oh, forever. See the little one with his little head bobbing everywhere. He was like trying to grab I kept watching it. I was like, oh my God, he's grabbing my drink. He's playing with the copy machine. Like, oh my God, the copy machine, the printer. What am I? In an office? Jeez.
God, is this 1987? Like, where are we all of a sudden?
Hold on, I have to go into the facts.
And get my dial up going.
I know. But yeah, thank you all for being with us today. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and all that good stuff. We will be back on
New Year's Day.
Yes, we will be live on New Year's Day too.
Yes.
So
probably Leticia. That's the plan for now. Unless something crazy happens with this story between now and then, we're going to pick up where we left off and finish off as much as we can of the Leticia stuff.
Yes, because I have thoughts on what I missed. And I want to go over some of those thoughts before we start part 3. Because part 2, I was like, what?
Yep, it's crazy.
So, yeah, but I said the thank yous. Oh, with that too, when you're seeing this, we still have our merch store up, still 15% off until the end of the year. So go ahead, treat yourself, on this holiday season.
Do it.
Okay, that's all I got. And I don't know.
See you next year.
See you next year. All right, bye.